Chapter 1259. The Heavenly Court Elder was very confident. After all, his disciple was an emperor. He firmly believed that other than extraordinaries, no one else was his match. It was because of this that he dared to say such words in front of everyone. At the same time, many people were puzzled. Was Jiang Chen a coward this time? He did not struggle and directly gave the token to the Heavenly Court. This was not Jiang Chen's style. Even Hong Yun and Beta Heike were dumbfounded. What was wrong with Jiang Chen? However, at this moment, Jiang Chen suddenly smiled and said, "Don't blame me if I kill or cripple you." The Heavenly Court Elder was stunned. He did not understand what Jiang Chen meant. The next moment, everyone saw a ray of light rise up from afar. Then, a graceful woman who was enveloped in light stepped out of the void. Her appearance was peerless, and her figure was even more graceful. However, there was a hint of killing intent between her brows. She walked over step by step. Her pace was neither slow nor fast. However, every step she took gave people a sense of intimidation. In particular, there were streaks of ecliptic energy surrounding her body. Only those who had become emperor lords and gathered the power of a nation could possess this kind of ecliptic energy. "Have you thought of the consequences of touching my man?" After a few breaths, the woman came to Jiang Chen's side. She stared at the Heavenly Court Elder and said domineeringly, "Let your disciple come and accept his death." "You are? Who is this? How dare an emperor speak to an extraordinary of the Heavenly Court like this?" Everyone was bewildered. "Isn't this woman a little too domineering?" Jiang Chen was a little embarrassed. He looked at the woman beside him with mixed feelings. "Empress," Jiang Chen whispered. He did not know how to address her. "There is only one emperor in this world, and that is me." The empress ignored Jiang Chen. Instead, she looked at the disciple of the old man from the Heavenly Court with a hint of arrogance and contempt in her eyes. She said, "Not every emperor can be called an emperor. At least, you are not worthy." After saying these words, the empress turned around and looked at Jiang Chen. The domineering look in her eyes disappeared and was replaced by gentleness. She asked, "How have you been recently?" "I'm fine. It's just that I get bullied sometimes," Jiang Chen said. "Oh, bully?" The expression of the Southern Phoenix matriarch turned cold. After that, she actually dotingly stroked Jiang Chen's face as she spoke in a gentle voice. "Once, you protected me. Today, I will protect you." "Where did this little girl come from? Which power are you from? Do you know that I'm from the Heavenly Court?" At this moment, the elder from the Heavenly Court shouted angrily. His aura fluctuated as if he was about to attack the Empress. The Empress didn't care about this at all. She pointed at the Heavenly Court Elder and said disdainfully, "I advise you not to attack me. Otherwise, you'll lose all your face." Then, the Empress pointed at the Heavenly Court disciple and said, "Let's fight. You talk big. I just don't know if your strength is worthy of your arrogance." The Heavenly Court disciple's eyes were cold. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged out. Before he even arrived, his fist was like a dazzling sun, heading straight for the Empress. "That's it?" The Empress snorted. She stretched out her slender, snow-white hand, and waves of ripples appeared on her palm. Everywhere the palm passed, the void exploded, and the laws of the great Tao transformed into waves that blasted out. Boom! With a loud explosion, the dazzling fist was shattered. At the same time, the Empress's palm landed on the Heavenly Court disciple's body. Boom! With another dull sound, the Heavenly Court disciple couldn't take it anymore. He flew out, blood splattering everywhere. After 3 breaths, his physical body exploded. Even his divine soul was almost destroyed. If the Heavenly Court Elder hadn't acted in time to protect his divine soul, the Heavenly Court disciple would have been killed by the Empress. "Hand over my man's thing." The Empress's expression was cold. She stretched out her hand and joked, "What? Don't tell me you want to cheat?" As soon as she said this, the Heavenly Court Elder's expression turned ugly. However, for the sake of his face, he still threw the token to enter the Tao Thousand Graveyard to the Empress. The Empress took the token but didn't give it to Jiang Chen. She knew that if she gave it to Jiangchen now, there would be people who would continue to challenge him. She didn't want Jiangchen to fight. She was worried that Jiangchen would be injured. Jiangchen wasn't in a hurry to ask for it. Instead, he looked at the Empress curiously and asked, "Where have you been all this time?" "I went to the ancestral land," the Empress said. Jiangchen naturally knew where the ancestral land was. It was the ancestral realm. However, Jiangchen didn't expect the Empress to come back. One had to know that the ancestral land was cursed. Even if an extraordinaire went in, it would be difficult for them to come back. However, what puzzled Jiangchen the most was that the Empress' cultivation level. Why was she still an emperor? Could it be that the Empress's talent was limited and she couldn't enter the extraordinaire realm? She looks familiar. Yes, now that you mention it, it's true. I think I've seen her somewhere before. Around them, many people were discussing the Empress. After a while, someone exclaimed, "It's her, the Eternal Emperor." The Eternal Emperor. Could it be her? At this moment, many people exclaimed and thought of a person. That person was the invincible being of the ancestral realm. That person only had one disciple in his life, and it was a female disciple. That disciple was the legendary Eternal Emperor. It was said that the woman's talent was rare. Even the invincible being said that his disciple's talent was far beyond his. However, it was because of such extraordinary talent that the Empress still couldn't enter the extraordinaire realm. This puzzled everyone in the world at that time. However, after the invincible being died, the Empress disappeared. Who would have thought that after a few generations, the Empress would reappear? Moreover, she had a man. I didn't hear that the Empress had a man back then. Bullshit. The Empress did have a man back then, but he was the one she admired. It was said that the man didn't accept the Empress. Oh! The voices around her became louder and louder, and the Empress's face became uglier and uglier. She looked around and said coldly, "Shut up, Empress. You. Who was the man who rejected you back then?" One of the extraordinaires was fearless and asked directly. As soon as he said that, everyone felt that there was something wrong with the Empress's aura. Endless killing intent actually appeared on her body. That? Could it be that the man who rejected you back then was me? Jiangchen asked with a strange expression. However, as soon as he said this, Jiangchen regretted it. Wasn't this exposing the Empress's go-ahead? The Empress, who was known to be more talented than the invincible being, was rejected in the end. This really made the Empress feel awkward. Chapter 1260. The Empress did not look too good. After all, she had been recognized and her sore spot was mentioned. Of course, that was not the main point. The main point was that Jiangchen did not know what was good for him. How dare he ask her that? She could not take it lying down. Pretend I didn't say anything. Jiangchen looked embarrassed. He thought to himself that he was usually quite smart. How could he ask such a question? You are a senior, known as the Emperor of all ages. Now you are fighting with your juniors. Do you have any shame? The elder from the heavenly court spoke. He looked unfriendly, but when he looked at the Empress, there was fear in his eyes. This was because this old man had lived for a very long time and had experienced that era. Although the Empress was only the emperor of that era, the extraordinaires did not dare to do anything to her. They did not have the ability to do anything to her. There were a few times when the Empress and the extraordinaires fought, and the Empress won every time. The Empress's power was rare. She broke the shackles and shackles with the power of an emperor and was able to fight with the extraordinaires. Shame? I want to ask you, do you have any shame for asking an emperor to fight with the king of gods? The Empress raised her eyebrows and said disdainfully, Why? Can't afford to lose? If you are not convinced, you can come at me yourself. I will keep you company. The elder from the heavenly court's face darkened when he heard that. He did not dare to act rashly. After all, the Empress was too famous. However, if he gave up today, where would his dignity go? Where would the heavenly court's dignity go? Everyone, the title of the Empress is a thing of the past. So many years have passed. Who knows how the Empress is now? Why don't we let our junior spar with the Empress and learn from her? The old man from the heavenly court said. Everyone heard this, but no one responded. After all, no one was a fool. The elder from the heavenly court was obviously going to use them as tools. "Old man, you are so talkative." Suddenly, there was an explosion in the void. Then, the third most powerful figure of the black market rushed out from the void. He shouted angrily. His palm was covered in rolling black fog as it pressed down on the elder from the heavenly court. "How dare you?" The heavenly court elder shouted, but his body was very obedient. He directly pulled his disciple into the void and left this place in the blink of an eye. He knew very well that he was no match for the third mogul of the black market. That's all I have to say today. The matter between the black market and the heavenly court is not over. The third most powerful man of the black market roared. His voice reverberated in all directions. Even people who were a few galaxies away could hear his roar. Apparently, the third tycoon of the black market was furious. At the same time, the people around them scanned the area to find the Holy Sky Royal Lord. After a few breaths of time, someone saw a severed arm in the void. It was left behind by the Holy Heaven Emperor. Defeated, even after merging 3 Taoist bodies, he still lost to the third giant of the black market. The 3 magnates of the black market are not just for show. The Holy Heaven's Royal Lord was so powerful that he didn't fear the third giant at all. Everyone thought that the Holy Heaven's Royal Lord could really fight with the third giant. But in the end, no matter how strong they were before, they were now just as laughable. If the 3 magnates of the black market were not strong enough, the entire black market would have been destroyed. The Holy Heaven's Royal Lord must be panicking now that he has offended the black market. The Holy Heaven's Royal Lord will have a hard time in the future. At this moment, the third most powerful man of the black market came to Jiang Chen's side. The black fog around him fluctuated continuously. Although he had won the battle with the Holy Heaven's Royal Lord, it was still difficult for him. From today onwards, the black market will be in charge of the Great Thousand Mine. The third most powerful man said in a low voice. He took the token from the Empress and said, "You don't need this token to enter the Great Thousand Mine." Third most powerful man, the Great Thousand Mine is controlled by many academies in the Great Thousand World. Do you want to monopolize this place? Will the academies agree? If the Holy Heaven's Royal Lord joins forces with many academies to fight against the black market, you won't have a good time, right? Many people asked. They didn't believe that the black market would dare to monopolize the Great Thousand Mine. The Holy Heaven's Royal Lord had been able to control the Great Thousand Mine because they had the support of many academies. Otherwise, how could the Holy Heaven's Royal Lord monopolize the Central Star area and control the Great Thousand Mine? The black market was strong, but if it really went to war with many academies and the Holy Heaven's Royal Lord, the black market might not have the upper hand. It was even possible that the black market would be destroyed. Don't talk nonsense. As long as the 3 most powerful men of the black market don't fall, the black market will not be destroyed. Someone whispered, "You don't know the origins of the 3 most powerful men of the black market. Their true identities are frightening." "Oh? What are their true identities?" someone asked curiously. However, no one dared to say it out loud. Those who knew the identities of the 3 most powerful men of the black market didn't dare to ask too much about it. At this moment, the third most powerful man of the black market ignored the voices around him. He looked at Jiang Chen and said, "Let's go in." "Thank you." Jiang Chen smiled. He looked at the Empress and asked, "Do you want to go in together?" "No, I can't stay outside for too long." The Empress sighed and said, "The reincarnation hunters have been looking for me." Jiang Chen turned serious when he heard that. He was even more confused. He was also a reincarnation stowaway, but the reincarnation hunters had only looked for him a few times. On the other hand, the Empress had been hunted by the reincarnation hunters ever since she was born. This treatment, Jiang Chen sometimes wondered if the Empress was hiding something with the reincarnation hunters since they took care of her. Could it be that the Empress took something with her when she was stowaway on the reincarnation road? Or did she know some secrets about the reincarnation? "I don't know when we will meet again. Take care," the Empress said softly. She stroked Jiang Chen's cheek with her slender hand. She wore a gentle yet bitter look on her face, but she still left in the end. Jiangchen looked at the Empress's back and felt a little emotional. He knew that the Empress had been secretly watching over him and protecting him. Why did he reject such a beautiful woman in the first place? Forget it, forget it. Everything will be known in the future. There's no need to worry about it now. Jiangchen sighed and looked at Beta Heike. Let's go. Okay. Beta Heike nodded and saluted Hong Yun and the third most powerful man of the black market. Thank you both for today. Beta Heike knew very well that if it weren't for the two of them, she and Jiang Chun would have ended up in a miserable state. Although the two of them were here to help Jiang Chun, they had also helped Beta Heike. Although Beta Heike hated the creatures of the vast 1,000 domains, she would not treat them as equals. Chapter 1261. The great 1,000 graveyard seemed to be in an endless void, but it also seemed to be above an abyss. Looking from afar, there were jagged rocks of grotesque shapes and mist rising from them. There was no entrance to the great 1,000 graveyard because one could enter from any direction. However, there were people from the various academies and the Xingtian dynasty guarding the area. Only those with the Xingtian dynasty's token could enter. However, it was different today. The Xingtian emperor had been defeated, so the people from the Xingtian dynasty naturally retreated. As for the people from the various academies, they did not want to get involved in this matter and retreated. Now, the great 1,000 graveyard was under the control of the third giant of the black market. Be careful, there may be a big problem here. Jiang Chun and Beta Heike had already entered the great 1,000 graveyard and were slowly advancing along a small path formed by the strange rocks. At first, the path was very wide, but not long after, the strange rocks around them towered, and the path gradually extended downwards. About half an hour later, the two of them really entered the great 1,000 graveyard and entered a mine. The mine was not as dark as it looked from the outside. It was very bright and warm, like an underground hot spring. However, Jiang Chun and Beta Heike stopped as soon as they entered the mine. This was because there was a stone tablet in front of them. On the stone tablet were the words, "Living people, do not come near." At the same time, there were many skeletons and corpses scattered around the stone tablet. Some of them were very well preserved. Even though they were dead, they looked very lifelike, as if they were still alive. Some of them only had broken limbs left, and their flesh had been destroyed. However, what was strange was that there were no traces of fighting nearby. This meant that these creatures had died directly after entering this place. No one knew what ominous things they had encountered. It's a little strange, be careful, Jiang Chun said in a low voice. He glanced at the well-preserved corpses. From the aura exuding from the corpses, these were obviously emperors. As emperors, they had suddenly died here, and there were no traces of fighting. This meant that this place was dangerous and strange, and it was indeed frightening. What's that? Suddenly, Beta Heike's expression froze. She saw a blade of grass moving not far ahead. No! To be more precise, he was walking. Taking a closer look, this green grass was half the height of a person. Its roots were like legs, and it was walking slowly, not far away. It even looked back at Jiang Chun and Beta Heike. Then, it extended a leaf and waved at Jiang Chun and Beta Heike. Could this be the elixir of immortality? Jiang Chun's eyes turned green. He subconsciously took a step forward and crossed the stone tablet. Boom! In an instant, there was a rumble all around, and then a huge killing array appeared. So there's a killing array. Jiang Chun was relieved. No wonder so many people died here, and there were no signs of fighting. They all died in the killing array. However, killing arrays were nothing to Jiang Chun. He stood in place without moving, and his eyes were indeed shining brightly. After a few breaths, runes and formation patterns appeared on Jiang Chun's body. Suppress! As the runes and formation patterns surged, Jiang Chun pointed his finger one after another, and rays of light fell on every corner of the killing array. Before the killing array could be activated, the array turned into smoke and disappeared without a trace. Your mastery of arrays is indeed impressive, Beta Heike praised. Just watch and learn more. Jiang Chen said with a smile. As soon as he said that, Jiang Chen's face suddenly darkened. This was because when the blade of grass saw Jiang Chen break the killing array, it extended 3 leaves like 3 fingers. Then, the blade of grass raised its middle finger at Jiang Chen and Beta Heike. Are you F*** King a demon? Jiang Chen's face darkened. Just as he was about to rush out, he saw the blade of grass disappear in an instant. It burrowed into the ground, leaving no trace behind. It was gone just like that. Do you think this is the elixir of immortality? Beta Heike asked. This blade of grass feels weird. Don't let me see it again, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. He was actually looked down on by a blade of grass. If he saw it again, he would definitely pull it out and use it as his belt. What do you think is buried here? I don't know. Maybe there are some living creatures buried here. Or there really is some mine. Next, Jiang Chen and Beta Heike moved forward slowly. Every step was very careful, and they did not dare to be careless. However, what was strange was that after 2 hours, the two of them had walked to the deepest part of the mine. They had already reached the end, but they did not encounter any danger. Could it be that the only danger in the Great Thousand Graveyard was the killing array from the stone tablet? If that was the case, how did the Great Thousand Graveyard get its reputation? Something is wrong. Jiang Chen frowned. Don't you think the Great Thousand Graveyard is too safe? Safe? Beta Heike said angrily. That killing array from before could even kill an emperor. If it weren't for your profound knowledge of arrays, we would have died there just now. But this is the Great Thousand Graveyard. Don't you think it's a bit too childish to be protected by such a killing array? Jiang Chen asked doubtfully. As soon as he said this, Beta Heike rolled her eyes and said angrily, Come on, extraordinaires can't enter here, and that killing array can easily kill an emperor. Ordinary people who enter the Great Thousand Graveyard, who can survive that killing array. That makes sense, but I just feel weird, Jiang Chen muttered. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sound of something breaking through the air. Then, a green light flew toward Jiang Chen and Beta Heike. Upon closer inspection, it was a green sword ray. It was so green that it made one panic. Who is it? Jiang Chen shouted softly and hurriedly retreated. He did not dare to face the sword ray head-on. Beta Heike did the same. She moved sideways to avoid the sword ray. Then, the two of them looked at each other and saw shock and fear in each other's eyes. That was because the power contained in the sword ray was too terrifying. It was as if it could annihilate everything. F***CK. It's that thing. After a few breaths, Jiang Chen's face darkened. He saw that blade of grass again. At that moment, the blade of grass seemed to be sizing up Jiang Chen and Beta Heike. At the same time, a green sword ray flashed all over its body. The sword ray just now was from this guy. Not bad, you two brats. You managed to avoid my sword. At that moment, the blade of grass spoke with an old and experienced look. Before Jiang Chen and Beta Heike could speak, the blade of grass spoke again. It's not bad to be my page boy. What the F***CK, a blade of grass talking. Jiang Chen was stunned and poked Beta Heike next to him, asking, Have you ever seen a blade of grass talk? It's the first time. Beta Heike shook her head. She had seen ferocious beasts and monsters talk, but she had never seen the weakest blade of grass talk. Chapter 1262. It was a stalk of grass that had yet to take human form, but it had the appearance of an old man. It had no facial features, but Jiang Chen knew that it was staring at them. Moreover, its attitude was a little arrogant. What the hell are you? The elixir of immortality? Jiang Chen asked. His body was tense because he could feel an extremely violent power in this stalk of grass. In front of this power, Jiang Chen did not have the confidence to protect himself. Beta Heike was the same. He frowned. He could not tell if this grass was good or bad to them. Juniors, you should be convinced that you can serve me, Master Sword. The grass said, Since ancient times, how many mighty figures have wanted to be under us, and how many people can't even meet me? Today, I'll give you a great opportunity. If you follow me, I'll guarantee you eternal life." It had to be said that the grass's words were a little too much. Eternal life was the dream of many cultivators. However, how many people could do it since ancient times? Even if extraordinaires had a long lifespan, it was still impossible for them to live forever. When the time was up, their lifespan would dry up, and they would not be able to escape the cycle of death. "Stop bragging." Jiangchen rolled his eyes and said angrily, "Who the hell are you? Have you seen the elixir of immortality? Or have you seen the sword path flower?" When the grass heard this, its leaves suddenly trembled. Then it asked angrily, "Have you never seen the sword path flower?" "Of course not. If we had, why would we ask you?" Jiangchen curled his lips. What a pair of blind juniors. The grass was a little angry and said in a deep voice, "I'm right in front of you, but you don't recognize me?" As soon as it said this, Jiangchen immediately became excited. He looked at the grass and asked, "You're the sword path flower? But you don't look like one. You don't look like a flower. You're just a grass." "Who told you that the sword path flower must be a flower? I abandoned the flowers and cultivated only my body. Now that my sword Tao has reached the grand completion stage, I can sever the sun, the moon, and the stars with a single sword strike. I can destroy the void laws with a single sword strike." It was a proud and aloof plant. At the same time, it gently waved one of its leaves. A terrifying green sword light shot out of the mine and out of the Kiliakosm graveyard. At this moment, all the living beings outside the graveyard were shocked. They saw the sword light slash open space, and even the laws of the Grand Tao were obliterated by it. Even the third most powerful man in the black market felt a chill run down his spine. He stared at the Great Thousand Graveyard and wondered if there was really a supreme being living here. At that moment, Jiang Chun and Beta Heike did not see how terrifying that sword ray was. Jiang Chun stared at the sword path flower. After a few breaths, he asked, "You're psychic?" "Nonsense. How can I communicate with you if I'm not psychic? I can cultivate? How can I be so powerful?" The sword path flower said angrily. Then it stroked another leaf with one of its leaves and said seriously, "Of course, I'm also one of the most handsome men in the world." Jiang Chun and Beta Heike were a little confused. In their eyes, all the green grass in the world were the same. Why was it handsome? Besides, it did not have a face. Who could tell if it was handsome or not? Bah! How shameless! "We came to the Great Thousand Graveyard to look for the sword path flower." Jiangchen thought for a moment and felt that it was better to tell the truth. He could tell that the sword path flower had no ill intentions towards them. Otherwise, it would have attacked them. Besides, Jiangchen had calculated that if he had a fight with the sword doctrine flower, he and Heba wouldn't be a match for it even if they worked together. In that case, it was better to tell the truth. "Senior, I have a disciple who is trapped in the greedy ghost. I want to borrow the power of the sword path flower to let the greedy ghost transcend the great Tao and rescue my disciple. Would you be willing to help?" Jiangchen said, "As long as you agree, you can ask for anything, as long as it's within my power." "Greedy ghost?" At this moment, Jiantao Hua exclaimed in surprise. Then she turned into a green light and came up to Jiangchen. She confirmed with him, "You really have a greedy ghost? That's the most powerful weapon in the world." "I do." Jiangchen stretched out his hand and summoned the greedy ghost. He said, "My disciple is trapped inside." "Oh, let me see." The sword path flower took the greedy ghost from Jiangchen. Then, a green light burst out from his body. "What are you doing?" At this moment, Jiangchen exclaimed in surprise, because the connection between him and the greedy ghost had disappeared. When Jiao Tian was trapped in the greedy ghost, Jiangchen used the greedy ghost as his item to prove his Tao in order to save Jiao Tian. But now, the connection between him and the item was severed. "Junior, you can't control this thing. Why don't you give it to me?" the sword path flower said. Then, it shook the greedy ghost. Plop! After a few breaths, the greedy ghost shook and a figure fell out of it. Upon closer inspection, it was Jiao Tian. However, Jiu Tian was unconscious and her aura was weak. It was obvious that she was having a hard time being trapped in the greedy ghost. She's the one you want to save, right? Now that I've given her to you, I'll take the greedy ghost. The sword path flower said, I help you save her and you give me the greedy ghost. We don't owe each other anything. Senior, this is my item to prove my Tao. Jiang Qin's face darkened. He did not dare to give the greedy ghost to the sword path flower. As the item to prove his Tao, the greedy ghost had already merged with Jiang Qin. If the greedy ghost was separated from Jiang Qin's cultivation and Tao fruit would be reduced by 60% to 70%. However, the sword path flower was very aggressive. Green sword rays appeared on its body and it said coldly, Can you not give me what I want? Now that the greedy ghost is in my hands, can you take it back? With that, the sword path flower gently stroked the greedy ghost with 2 leaves. At this moment, Jiang Qin's expression changed drastically. His face was covered in cold sweat, especially his cultivation and Tao fruit. They dropped immediately. You really took the greedy ghost? Beta Heike glared at the sword path flower and said coldly, Give it back to him. Otherwise, I'll kill you today. You? Are you qualified? The sword path flower said disdainfully, In the great 1,000 graveyard, if I say 1, it means 1. Even if that despicable flower comes, it will have to kneel and submit to me. Is that so? Suddenly, before Jiang Qin and Beta Heike could speak, a leisurely voice sounded. Then, a colorful flower appeared from the other side of the cave. With the appearance of this flower, the entire cave was filled with a fragrance. Even the Tao here was shaking, as if it was affected by this flower. Chapter 1263. It was a 5-colored flower. It was so beautiful that it was as if the entire universe was shining with it as the center. However, like the sword path flower, this flower did not have a human form. It could speak human language, and the aura it exuded was even more terrifying than the sword path flower. However, compared to the arrogant attitude of the sword path flower, this 5-colored flower seemed a little indifferent. Although it was shrouded in 5-colored light and gave off a feeling of supremacy, it was really elegant and indifferent, as if it did not belong to the mortal world. However, it came directly in front of the sword path flower, snatched the greedy ghost, and threw it to Jiang Qin. Before Jiang Qin could express his gratitude, Duo Hua patted the leaves of the sword doctrine flower, as if he was patting its head. He said in a low voice, The great 1,000-mine burial ground has everything. Do you think a greedy ghost like you would bully a junior like this? Don't pretend. You like to act all high and mighty. The sword path flower seemed to be angry. A sword ray shot out and stood on top of the flower. Buzz! However, a rumbling sound resounded as the terrifying ray of light pierced through Duo Hua's body and vanished into nothingness. This is a stalk of grass, a flower. What secrets are hidden in the great 1,000-mine? It's so strange. Jiang Qin and Beta Heike were extremely shocked. They did not know what was in the great 1,000-mine. However, at least the 2 guys in front of them were enough to shock them. You should know that you're just a flower that I shed. I shed you for the supreme sword principle, so that you can have freedom and a real body. The sword path flower shouted angrily. Now, are you going to rebel against me? What a joke. I'm me, and you're you. I'm not you, and you're not me. The flower said softly, Although I used to be one with you, we're different now. In the end, you're still a flower that I shed. The sword path flower said. Bang! As soon as he said that, the originally calm flower suddenly burst forth with a brilliant light, bombarding Kendo flower's body. Even the powerful sword Tao flower was blown away. Then, it was pressed to the ground by a petal, unable to move. Are you trying to overturn the heavens? I am the master. You're just a flower that I've grown. The sword Tao flower was furious. It struggled on the ground, but it couldn't break free. She looked at the flower again and snorted softly. Then, she ignored the Kendo flower and walked towards Jiang Qin and Beta Heike. It seemed to be sizing up Jiang Qin and Beta Heike. Although it had no facial features, it gave off a soul-stirring feeling. "What are you doing in the Great Thousand Graveyard?" A few breaths later, the flower asked and introduced itself. "I'm also a sword Tao flower. Of course, in the eyes of the world, I have another name, immortal medicine." "What? You are the immortal medicine? Look like this?" Jiang Chun and Beta Heike were shocked. They couldn't believe it. From the previous conversation between the flower and the sword Tao flower, they knew that the flower and the sword Tao flower were originally one. After the sword Tao flower gained sentience, it shed this flower in order to pursue the supreme sword Tao. Because of that, the flower gained freedom and gained sentience. In the end, it became like this. But how could a peeled flower become an elixir of immortality? Wasn't the immortal medicine something that was born from the heavens and earth? Wasn't it something that was born from the heavens and earth? That thing had a mysterious origin. At the very least, it couldn't be a shed flower. "You don't believe me?" At that moment, the immortal medicine asked. Then it laughed a few times and said, "That's right. The world only knows about the immortal medicine, but they don't know where it came from." Saying this, he pointed at the suppressed sword path flower and said, "Every stalk of immortal herb is shed from a living being like this. You can say that I'm the fruit of the sword Tao flower. If I gain sentience, I'm the immortal medicine. For example, the green dragon immortal medicine, the white tiger immortal medicine, and so on. In their previous lives, they were all a flower or a leaf on a divine herb that was born from the heavens and earth. Because of some things, they gained freedom and gained sentience. That's why they became the immortal medicine." Jiang Chen was dumbfounded. It had never occurred to him that this was how the mysterious elixir of immortality had come about. At that moment, Jiang Chen was not interested in the immortal medicine. Instead, he was very interested in the sword Tao flower. His eyes were shining with greed. "I have a bold idea," Jiang Chen muttered and poked Beta Heike. "Let's raise a sword Tao flower and let it bloom and shed again. That way we'll have an endless supply of immortal medicine, right?" Don't say that. At least, don't say that in front of them." Beta Heike's face darkened. "These two are more powerful than us." "Ah, I was too excited." Jiang Chen finally reacted and said with an embarrassed smile, "I was just joking. Please don't take offense." Back to the topic. "Why are you here at the Great Thousand Graveyard?" The immortal medicine asked. "Are you here for me?" An odd look appeared on Jiang Chen's face when he heard this. He thought for a moment and asked weakly, "If I tell you that we're here for the sword Tao flower and not for you, will you feel embarrassed?" "I think I'll feel embarrassed," the immortal medicine said softly. Its body shone with five-colored light, as if it wanted to suppress Jiang Chen. "Kid, you have good taste. You know that I'm stronger than this flower." The sword Tao flower was suppressed, but it did not stop talking. As soon as it finished speaking, the green light on its body shone brightly. It actually managed to break free. However, after breaking free, it did not attack the immortal medicine. Instead, it gestured for them to be quiet and reminded them, "Be careful. Don't disturb the sleeping creatures here. If there's nothing else, you can go back. The Great Thousand Graveyard does not allow anyone to enter," the immortal medicine said. "Since ancient times, this place has always been a forbidden place. But we're here," Jiang Chen muttered. "We came in and got nothing. Are we allowed to leave?" "You can get some things, but it all depends on your luck and good fortune," the sword Tao flower said. "The owner of this place once said that the fated ones will get the greatest treasures in the world." After saying that, he went to the depths of the cave mansion and pointed to a big round plate hanging on the wall. "Turn it. You can get whatever the needle turns to from the Great Thousand Graveyard." When Jiang Chen heard that, he was immediately interested. When he saw what was written on the plate, his eyes turned green. Sword Doctrine Flower, Immortal Elixir, Immortal Holy Method, Ancient Scripture of Time. Jiang Chen wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were shining with a green light. Looking at the Sword Doctrine Flower and the Immortal Elixir, he asked, "If the pointer on the big disc points to the Sword Doctrine Flower or the Immortal Elixir, will I be able to take you away?" Chapter 1264. It was a large circular plate with a total of 9 points on it, as well as a pointer. This meant that Jiang Chun could take whatever the needle pointed to. Jiang Chun was excited. If he could get the elixir of immortality, he would be rich. Of course, the immortal divine skill and the ancient scripture of time were supreme scriptures that had existed since ancient times. Ordinary people would not be able to imagine how extraordinary they were. If he could get one of them, Jiang Chun's strength would be greatly improved. You can take whatever it points to, the elixir of immortality said. But you must be able to spin this disc first. Oh, Jiang Chun asked curiously. Why do you say that? The weight of this disc is made of the Queen Mother Stone. Even an emperor would not be able to spin it, the Kendo flower said disdainfully. With your cultivation of a divine king, don't even think about it. Let's give it a try, Jiang Chun said softly. His body was extremely strong, and his strength was extraordinary. Perhaps he could really spin this big disc. Once he spun it, he would be able to take something away. If he was lucky, he could even take the elixir of immortality. Don't try. It's a waste of time. The Kendo flower still had a look of disdain on his face. In his eyes, unless an extraordinary came, no one would be able to move the wheel. Jiang Chun did not speak. He came to the big disc, and his divine power surged. Then, he pressed his hands on the disc. His strength exploded, and even the power of the dragon tiger went berserk. However, the wheel didn't budge at all. Open up! At this moment, Jiang Chun decided to go all out. He exerted the power of 3 doctrine souls on his body. Radiance was rising. He exerted his power again, and the wheel finally moved a little. However, it was only a little. He was still far from being able to spin the disc. Million transformations, heavenly lamp. Jiang Chun's face darkened, but he did not give up. With a roar, the million transformations, heavenly lamp suddenly burst into flames. A blue lamp was floating above his head. It was brightly lit. At the same time, a black shadow showed up and attached itself to Jiang Chun. The lamp holder's possession. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Chun exerted force with both hands again, and the wheel finally began to spin. 1 lap, 2 laps, after 3 laps, the roulette stopped. After the wheel came to a stop, the needle slowly stopped and finally landed on the sword Dao flower. What? Sword Dao flower? Jiang Chun looked disappointed. He had no interest in the sword Dao flower. Previously, when 9 Heavens was still trapped in the life grubber, Jiang Chun really wanted the sword Dao flower. But now, the 9th Heavens had already come out. What use was there for him to keep the sword Dao flower? What kind of look is that? What kind of expression was that? You're not satisfied with me? Kendo flower was enraged. After a few angry roars, he suddenly smiled contemptuously and pointed to the side of the wheel. Look at the rules. When Jiang Chun heard this, he saw that there was a line of words beside the roulette. It was written that only when the roulette spun 100 laps would it count. This time, the roulette only spun 3 laps. No matter where the needle turned, Jiang Chun could not take it away. Don't waste your energy. The immortal elixir sighed. Only extraordinaires can spin this roulette 100 laps. Can I still try? Jiang Chun asked. Yes, but it's useless. The result is the same, the immortal elixir said. When Jiang Chun heard this, he felt that there was no hope, but he could not help but try again. This time, Jiang Chun had revealed all his trump cards. With 3 Taoist spirits in the lamp holder's possession, the chaotic energy suddenly exploded and shrouded Jiang Chun like a green fog. Ah! With a long roar, the lights lit up and the 3 strands of chaotic energy exploded with a shocking power. Under this power, Jiang Chun's veins popped out. He exerted force with both hands, and the sound of dragons and tigers erupted from his body. Boom! With a loud explosion, the roulette spun completely, one round after another. The roulette seemed to be unable to stop. When the Kendo flower and the immortal elixir saw this, they immediately panicked. They could feel that the roulette spun more than 100 laps this time. They could not believe that a divine king had to be so powerful to be able to spin the roulette made of the Queen Mother Stone. It doesn't count. Each of us only has 1 chance. It definitely doesn't count. The Kendo flower and the immortal elixir said, if the needle really landed on their names, wouldn't it follow Jiangqin? Moreover, the owner of the great thousand graveyard had set a rule. If a living thing was taken away, it would have to recognize its master. By then, they would have to recognize Jiangqin as their master. It doesn't count? This? Okay. Jiangqin sighed. He thought that he had a chance this time, but he did not expect that it would not count. Then, if it didn't count, then so be it. Anyway, the 9 heavens had come out. This time he had gained something. Dong! After a dozen breaths, the roulette stopped spinning and the needle slowly landed on the kendo flower. F***CK. At this moment, the kendo flower cursed and said, it doesn't count. Each of us only has one chance. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying force suddenly appeared on the roulette. Under this force, Jiangqin's entire body was imprisoned. At the same time, a drop of blood dripped from between his eyebrows and slowly landed in front of the kendo flower. At the same time, a soul fragment appeared in the kendo flower's body and merged with Jiangqin's blood. In an instant, Jiangqin was dumbfounded. That was because he could feel that there was a contract between him and the kendo flower, and it was a master-servant contract. Jiangqin was the master, and the kendo flower was the master. It doesn't count. I don't accept it. The kendo flower roared. He was not willing to become Jiangqin's servant just like that. Jiangqin was also dumbfounded. Didn't they say it didn't count? What was going on now? This rule isn't up to us. The roulette contains the laws and order left behind by the owner of the great thousand graveyard. The immortal herb explained, as long as you get it, it's yours. Oh, so that means the kendo flower is mine now? Jiangqin came to his senses and looked at the kendo flower with a cheeky smile. He said mockingly, little Jian, hurry up and call me master. I'll destroy you. The kendo flower roared. However, just as he was about to attack Jiangqin, the power of the contract took effect. In an instant, the kendo flower collapsed to the ground. He had no strength left in his body. Even his divine power was sealed. At this moment, the kendo flower was completely flustered and in despair. He lay on the ground, looked at the roulette, and wailed, Boss, please let me go. I've been with you for several generations. How can you bear to give me to a puny god king as a servant? Chapter 1265. Kendo flower was in despair. He could not change the rules set by the owner of the great thousand graveyard. He did not want to be Jiangqin's servant. Kendo flower had lived for countless years and witnessed the birth of many geniuses and the fall of countless heroes. He boasted that he stood at the peak of this world. Now, making him become a divine king's servant, how could he be reconciled in his heart? He was full of anger and grievance. But he could not change all of this. Once the contract was set, unless Jiangqin was willing to break the contract, kendo flower would be his servant. You're crying for your parents. Do you think I want to take you as my servant? Jiangqin didn't feel good about it either. He had reincarnated 10 times. Although his memories were incomplete, he could not afford to be despised like this. So what if he was a divine king? Now, with the power of a divine king and all his trump cards, he could fight against an emperor. Jiangqin felt that kendo flower had underestimated him. Break! At this moment, Jiangqin did not take this lying down. He formed a seal with both hands and directly broke the contract in front of kendo flower. This time, not only was kendo flower dumbfounded, but even Beta Heike and the immortal herb were dumbfounded. What do you mean by this? Isn't kendo flower good? The immortal herb asked curiously. Although I'm only a divine king, I have my pride. Since he's unwilling, why should I force him? Jiangqin said coldly, you can't take this lying down, but I can't take this lying down. You're looking down on me? You're just a divine king. Kendo flower did not thank him. Instead, he attacked with a sword ray towards Jiangqin. The sword path flower was very unreasonable. In his eyes, strength was the only way. If you're stronger than me, I'll listen to you. If you're not strong enough, you're like an ant. If he dies, there's no need for the great thousand graveyard to exist. Suddenly, A leisurely voice sounded. It seemed to come from ancient times, but also from the future. Under this voice, Kendo Flower's sword ray disappeared into thin air. At the same time, Kendo Flower was suppressed to the ground. How many times had he been suppressed today? But this time, the leaves of the sword Dao flower were about to wither. It wasn't really withering, it was just being frightened. He knew better than anyone where this voice had come from and whose mouth it had come from. Boss, I don't accept this. Kendo Flower growled. Have you ever considered my feelings when you set these rules? Rules are rules. It's already predestined. The owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard didn't show himself. He sighed and said, perhaps this opportunity is not suitable for you. What opportunity and good fortune? He's just a mere god king, yet he wants me to become his servant. Is this fate or good fortune? I'd rather not have this opportunity. Kendo Flower was frightened, but he still spoke his mind. He cultivated the sword, and his heart was like a sword. He was fearless. The sword and the flower are one. Since you are not willing to follow him, then what about you? At this moment, the owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard spoke. That you he was referring to was the immortal herb. The immortal herb thought for a moment, then opened its petals and said, everything I have comes from the Great Thousand Graveyard. I'll do whatever you say. Will you regret it? Will you be angry? The owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard asked. No, I won't. The immortal herb said softly. If this is a good fortune and opportunity, then maybe I can accept it. With that, a soul fragment of the immortal herb appeared, emitting an amazing fragrance. Accompanied by a 5-colored light, it slowly landed in front of Jiang Chun. Let's make a contract. You'll be the master, and I'll be the servant. The immortal herb said. Jiang Chun frowned and said, if you're only making a contract with me because of the owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard, then I don't want it. Although Jiang Chun wanted the elixir of immortality very much, he knew better than anyone that the elixir of immortality wasn't something that anyone could get. Today, even if he got the immortal herb, if word got out, there would be many people in the outside world who would be jealous of the immortal herb. They would definitely come looking for him. With his current cultivation, it would be easy to deal with ordinary emperors. However, if he had to face top emperors, or even extraordinaries, Jiang Chun would have a hard time. At that time, not only would it be difficult to keep the immortal herb, but he would also have to pay with his life. Of course, this was not to say that Jiang Chun was a coward. After his rebirth, it had not been easy for him to get to where he was today. He had to be careful with every step he took. He had to think carefully. Fortune and fortune are things that can't be seen clearly or explained clearly. Perhaps coming to the Kiliakosm quarry and spinning the wheel is a type of fortune for both of us. The immortal medicine said, it's a type of fortune for both of us. But I can't protect you. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly and said, yes, I'm just a divine king now. My cultivation is nothing in the whole Great Thousand world. After you go out with me, once you're exposed, you'll be taken away and I'll die. Then change yourself and make yourself stronger. The immortal herb said, Buzz. Before Jiang Chun could react, the immortal herb suddenly took action and forced out a strand of Jiang Chun's essence blood. Then it made a contract with Jiang Chun. It was the servant, and Jiang Chun was the master. That's it. We'll walk the path together. The immortal herb seemed to be very open-minded. At the same time, its figure flashed and turned into a white-haired woman. She looked to be only 5 or 6 years old. Her skin was very tender, and her eyes were big and watery. She gave people a feeling of innocence. I haven't grown up yet. I'm counting on you. The immortal herb said, give it a name. At that moment, the voice of the owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard was heard again. He wanted Jiang Chun to give the immortal herb a name. Jiang Chun was naturally confused. Why did he have to give it a name? However, he subconsciously thought about it and said, Yao Dade. As soon as he said that, the entire Great Thousand Graveyard seemed to fall silent. Even the immortal herb was a little confused. What kind of name is that? Brother, look at me. I'm a woman. Why did you give me such a name? Even the owner of the Great Thousand Graveyard was silent. He seemed to be a little confused. Jiangchen also came to his senses and looked embarrassed. When he was naming the immortal herb, he suddenly thought of the 4 days. He subconsciously named the immortal herb Yao Dade, Buzz. At that moment, Yao Dade's body shone brightly. He turned from a 5 or 6-year-old to a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Once I'm given a name, I'll grow up. Also, I won't be able to change my name for the rest of my life. Yao Dade's appearance was peerless. However, his face was dark and his eyes were full of resentment. Chapter 1266. The elixir of immortality did not have a name before it recognized its owner. It was called the elixir of immortality. Bestowing a name was a ritual for the elixir of immortality. The ritual was irreversible. Once the name was given, it could not be changed. At that moment, Yao Dade's face was full of resentment. He thought to himself that this little divine king was unreliable. He was so petty even when he gave a name. If he followed him in the future, what would his life be like? All of a sudden, Jiang Qin's expression changed. It was because the extraordinary power in his body started fluctuating. It was like a volcanic eruption, and it was getting stronger quickly. At the same time, the elixir of immortality's power was weakening. In the end, the elixir of immortality's cultivation dropped to lower ultimate god. Jiang Qin's cultivation level soared from divine king all the way to low-level divine venerable. Their cultivations were actually equal at this moment. What's going on? Jiang Qin was puzzled. This is the power of the elixir of immortality. Once it recognizes its owner, after the ceremony, our cultivation levels will be equal, Yao Dade said in annoyance. Yao Dade said unhappily, I was originally the emperor, but because of the ceremony, part of my power has been given to you. Oh! Jiang Chun was relieved and felt happy. Not only did he get the elixir of immortality, but his cultivation level also soared to lower ultimate god. However, looking at the elixir of immortality's face, it was as dark as ink. Logically speaking, with my cultivation foundation, it should be enough to raise your cultivation level to Emperor God. Yao Dade frowned and blinked his beautiful eyes. He looked at Jiang Chun in confusion and asked, This doesn't make sense. Maybe my foundation is too deep and the power needed to raise my cultivation level is too much, Jiang Chun explained. It was indeed very difficult for Jiang Chun to raise his cultivation level. Not only did he have to cultivate the Tiger Soul skill, but he also had to cultivate the heavenly sacred scripture. Half of the cultivation that the elixir of immortality gave him went into the tiger bone and dragon vein. Otherwise, with the elixir of immortality's profound cultivation, Jiang Qin's cultivation level would at least be Emperor God. Yao Dade, following a mere godly king, you're basically crippled. Next to him, the Kendo flower sneered. Perhaps after you leave the Kiliakazam quarry, someone will snatch it away and refine it into a medicinal pill. Who can say for sure when it comes to fate and opportunities? Yao Dade said softly, Even if I die after going out, I'm willing. It has nothing to do with you. To be honest, Yao Dade was very open-minded. The only thing he cared about was his name. What a lousy name. However, if she knew that there were still 4 Vedanta in the outside world, would she go crazy? Can I spin the big roulette too? Beta Heike looked on enviously. Sure, Yao Dade said, as long as you can move it. Then I'll give it a try, Beta Heike whispered as she walked to the front of the roulette. In the next moment, the divine power in Beta Heike's body exploded as he roared, Ancestors, help me! Wang! The moment he finished speaking, Jiang Qin's eyes widened. This was because he saw that the ancestors of the Pingtian clan had actually appeared. They had left a sliver of a soul imprint in Beta Heike's body. It was the final legacy they had left behind for the last descendant of the Pingtian clan. Boom! At this moment, Beta Heike seemed to have been possessed by a god of war. He suddenly moved his hands, and the roulette immediately began to spin. However, Beta Heike did not look at the roulette before him. Instead, he turned around and looked at the 7 figures behind him. They were the 7 ancestors of the Pingtian clan. There was his father, his uncle, and his grandfather. These people had all died in battle when the god world was destroyed. Now that he had used this power, the legacy was about to vanish. From now on, he would never be able to see his family again. I want to try, Beta Heike said to the 7 figures. He pointed at the roulette behind him and said, "There's a divine technique on there. If I obtain it, perhaps I'll be invincible or even surpass the shackles of the world. I want to restore the glory of the Pingtian clan." Child, just follow your heart. Although we're no longer here, the will of the Pingtian clan remains. Walk your own path in the future. There's no need to fear anything, and there's no need to fear anything. Our Pingtian clan has never feared anything. The 7 figures spoke one after another. Afterwards, they all vanished into the air with benevolent and gratified expressions. Boom! It was also at this moment that the roulette stopped spinning. The needle landed on the ancient scripture of time. Holy shit! We can't give this away, right? At this moment, the eyes of Jindao Flower and Yao Dade shone with green light. They knew that the ancient scripture of time was the legacy of the master of the boundless graveyard. Since ancient times, there had been countless cultivation methods in the world. However, there were a few that had been praised as the most powerful of all. One of them was the ancient scripture of time. In the past, the master of the boundless graveyard had used the art of time to reign supreme throughout history. Perhaps this is fate. The voice of the master of the boundless graveyard rang out. Afterwards, a ray of light shot out from the depths of the dwelling and entered Beta Heike's mind. It was the cultivation method of the ancient scripture of time. Kid, now that you've obtained the ancient scripture of time, you're basically the disciple of the master of the boundless graveyard. Hurry up and acknowledge him as your master. Jindao Flower shouted from the side. However, before Beta Heike could speak, the master of the boundless graveyard directly refused. How can I be your master? What was I when the Pingtian clan was at its most glorious? If I accept you as my disciple, that old man from the Pingtian clan will come and kill me. With that, Jiang Chun and Beta Heike became rather confused. That old man from the Pingtian clan? Who was that? Back in the god world, the Pingtian clan had all died. Only Beta Heike was left. The Pingtian clan also originates from the ancestral realm. As far as I know, there's another ancestor of the Pingtian clan who has always been guarding the ancestral realm apart from you. The master of the boundless graveyard said, "In the future, if you have the strength to enter the ancestral realm, you might be able to meet him. My Pingtian clan still has someone." Beta Heike was extremely excited. He originally thought that he was the only one left in the world. He never thought that he still had relatives. No matter what, I have to thank you today, Senior. Beta Heike bowed towards the depths of the dwelling and said, "Thank you for giving me the ancient scripture of time. It's just a worldly possession given to the fated one." The master of the boundless graveyard was very indifferent. He then asked them to leave and said, "Leave. Don't disturb our rest." "Senior, I want to ask, is the boundless graveyard really a graveyard?" Jiang Chun suddenly asked. He stared at the depths of the dwelling and felt that something was attracting him. This feeling was very familiar to Jiang Chun. It was as if his body from his past life was in the depths of the boundless graveyard. Chapter 1267. Jiang Chun couldn't be more familiar with this feeling. He was sure that he definitely had a physical body in the Great Thousand Mine Burial Ground. However, the owner of the Great Thousand Mine Burial Ground told Jiang Chun that there was no physical body here, only a piece of bone. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chun's heart turned cold. Jiang Chun's first thought was that his physical body in a previous life had been destroyed and only a piece of bone was left. This was a huge blow to him. Jiang Chun could almost guess that if he wanted to return from his 10th life, he would need to integrate the physical bodies of his previous lives. If he lost a physical body, he might not be able to return. My physical body is only left with a piece of bone? What about the rest? Is it gone? Jiang Chun asked hurriedly. It's scattered all over the place. The owner of the great thousand-mine burial ground said, "This is the physical body of your first life. The battle back then was too fierce. Even with your indestructible body, it was shattered." What? The physical body of my first life? Jiang Chen was shocked. To be honest, Jiang Chen still didn't know who his first life was, but he also knew that the first life was definitely extraordinary. However, the most powerful physical body of the first life was actually shattered. Then, just how tragic was that battle back then? The most important thing was, where were the other fragments of the physical body of the first life? There is a piece of your physical body in the ancient netherworld, a piece in the ancient heavenly court, a piece in the supreme heavenly palace, and a piece in the ancestral land. As for the most important head of your first life, I don't know where it is, but it should still be there. The owner of the great thousand-mine burial ground said, "Your physical body will not be destroyed, but it was deliberately broken up by someone. They don't want you to return." "You mean except for the missing head, we know where the other parts are?" Jiang Chen said softly. Then, Jiang Chen's face darkened. Those parts of the physical body were in the ancient heavenly court and the ancient netherworld. How could he find them? Currently, all he had heard of was that the 3 mountains and 5 seas was the underworld, and the heavenly court had just been born. He hadn't heard anything about the ancient underworld or the ancient heavenly court. Muyad had once mentioned that the ancient underworld and the ancient heavenly court still existed. But where were they? What was the attitude of the ancient heavenly court and ancient netherworld towards Jiang Chen? If Jiang Chen was an enemy, would they be willing to give his body fragments back to him? What a headache! Jiang Chen heaved a long sigh. It would be very difficult to find the body of his first life. "Can you return this bone to me?" Jiang Chen asked. As for the other parts of his body, he could slowly find them. "I can't give it to you now," the owner of the great thousand graveyard explained. "This bone is where your Tao fruit is. It was crippled back then and needed to be nurtured here." "Oh, is that so?" Jiang Chen frowned slightly, feeling that something was wrong. However, since the owner of the great thousand graveyard was unwilling to give it to him, Jiang Chen couldn't take it away. After all, Jiang Chen's cultivation had just reached the lower-level ultimate god. In front of the owner of the great thousand graveyard, he was like an ant. "Is there any news about the head of the first life?" Jiang Chen asked again. "The last battle was in the Central Star area. Maybe there are clues there," the owner of the great thousand graveyard said. Then his voice became a little weak, and he seemed to be in a bad state. He asked them to leave again and was ready to go back to sleep. Jiang Chen and Beta Heike didn't continue to pester him. One of them had Yao Dade, and the other had the ancient scripture of time. It was a good harvest. Then, the two of them went back the way they came and were ready to leave. When the two of them walked out of the mine, the sword principal flower was about to go crazy. From the conversation between Jiang Chen and the owner of the great thousand graveyard, he already knew Jiang Chen's identity. At this moment, he regretted it. He was annoyed, regretful, and even a little resentful. "Boss, why didn't you tell me clearly? If I knew this guy was the reincarnation of that person, I would have followed him no matter what," the sword principal flower complained. "So, this opportunity doesn't belong to you," the owner of the great thousand graveyard sighed. "You came first, and then there was the elixir of immortality. I thought this opportunity belonged to you, but you missed it. Maybe you have your own path, and so does the elixir of immortality." The sword principal flower didn't think so. He grew from a blade of grass to a sword principal flower. Then he gained sentience, cultivated swordsmanship, and shed his flower. He had experienced too much. Although he was born and raised by heaven and earth, he had always wanted to change his fate. He didn't believe in fate, let alone the so-called destiny. "I want to go out. I want to find him," the sword principal flower shouted. "As long as you can get out, you can do it at any time," the owner of the great thousand graveyard joked. "But you also know that this place is extraordinary. You were born here. It's easier said than done to get out. You have to break the laws of this place to get out. It's just a law," the sword principal flower said in a deep voice. At the same time, Jiang Chen and Beta Heike had already walked out of the great thousand graveyard. When they came to the outside world, they found that there were many more people in the nearby starry sky. Especially the transcendents, there were dozens of them. Among them, there were many emperors and divine emperors. They're out. Humph! At this moment, when everyone saw Jiang Chun and Beta Heike come out, their eyes were filled with greed. They firmly believed that at least one of Jiang Chun and Beta Heike had obtained something. Did you get the elixir of immortality? And Transcendent asked directly. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if stars were annihilated in the depths of his eyes. His cultivation was very high. Compared to ordinary transcendence, he gave off a very deep feeling. If you got it, then hand it over. The elixir of immortality is not something that a mere divine venerable like you can enjoy. We don't want to hear your explanation. If you know what's good for you, hand it over yourself. Otherwise, we'll search you personally. Several transcendents spoke one after another, completely ignoring the third giant of the black market who was standing on the side. At this moment, although the third giant of the black market was standing there, he did not say much. It was because he also felt that it was very troublesome. There were so many transcendents, and a few of them exuded extremely strong auras, only a little weaker than him. If so many transcendents joined forces as the third giant of the black market, it would be difficult for him to resist. Everyone, there is no elixir of immortality inside. There is a sword principle flower, but we didn't get it. At this moment, Beta Heike was the first to speak. Then, she pointed to herself and said, I got the ancient scripture of time. As soon as she said that, Jiang Chen's expression changed drastically. He even poked Beta Heike and said in a low voice, You want to take it on? Jiang Chen understood what Beta Heike meant. If no one took it on today, then Jiang Chen and Beta Heike would have to stay here. Chapter 1268. Everyone knew how powerful the third powerhouse of the black market was. However, even he did not dare to make a move at this moment. This was enough to show how serious the situation was. Beta Heike was not a fool. He knew that this was a difficult task. Only someone who stood up and took responsibility for everything here could this matter be resolved. You're crazy. Even if you want to take responsibility, they won't believe you. Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. What else can I do? Beta Heike sighed. After coming to the Great Thousand World, he had suffered everywhere and felt extremely wronged. However, he knew that he had endured it so that he could become stronger. It was Jiang Chun who had rescued him. It was also Jiang Chun who had brought him into Tongtian Garden. It was also Jiang Chun who had brought him into the Great Thousand-Mine Burial Ground. There was no reason for him to let Jiang Chun take responsibility for this matter. After I came to the Great Thousand World, everything I have was given to me by you. If it weren't for you, I might have died by now. Beta Heike sighed softly and took a step forward. He looked at the people around him and said, The ancient scripture of time is with me. If you want it, take it. However, just as he finished speaking, he suddenly heard the third powerhouse of the black market laugh a few times. Then, he looked at Beta Heike and praised, Not bad. You're a good man. After saying that, the third powerhouse of the black market shielded Jiang Chun and Beta Heike behind him. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and his aura erupted. Behind him, a domain formed, protecting Jiang Chun and Beta Heike. Then, he stretched out his finger and pointed at the living beings around him. With a proud and aloof tone, he shouted, Today, as long as I'm here, they're here too. The third powerhouse of the black market. Do you really think that you can fight against us with your own strength? I advise you to be sensible. Today, hand over the ancient scripture of time. We'll study it together so that we don't have to fall out with each other. Otherwise, your black market, what is it? A few extraordinaries with powerful auras spoke. They were not afraid of the third powerhouse of the black market. Giving face to the black market doesn't mean that the heavenly court is afraid of you. At this moment, the old man from the heavenly court also spoke. Previously, when he was scared away by that fatty in the black market, he was already filled with resentment. Now, with so many extraordinaires around, He was confident that he could deal with the third powerhouse of the black market together. Who do you think you are? The face of the third overlord of the black market turned cold. By the time he finished speaking, he had already appeared in front of the old man from the heavenly court. Then he struck out with his palm. With wind, rain, and thunder, he shattered the heavenly court elder's body in front of everyone. If the heavenly court's elder hadn't reacted quickly enough and his soul and spirit had escaped quickly, this palm strike would have been enough to take his life. You really dare to kill me? Don't think that the black market can fight against the heavenly court. The old man from the heavenly court reconstructed his corporeal body. His face was pale, but his eyes were filled with anger. He was afraid of the third overlord of the black market, but it didn't mean that the entire heavenly court was afraid of him. Black market, you've developed too quickly over the years and offended many forces. If you don't back down today, then whether the black market can establish itself in the greater thousand world in the future is uncertain. You better think about the consequences. Many people were shouting angrily, and some people were persuading him, hoping that the third overlord of the black market would take a step back and hand over Jiangchun and Beta Heike. However, the third overlord of the black market was very tough. He used his own domain to protect Jiangchun and Beta Heike. At the same time, a long green staff appeared in his hand. With one hand behind his back and the other holding the long green staff, he shouted, "Come on, let's fight." Third overlord, you're too arrogant. How interesting. You're just the third overlord of the black market. Do you really think you can fight against all the heroes? At this moment, a few people walked out. Their auras were so terrifying that the void around them was being annihilated. The great path's precepts were suppressed by them like black thunderbolts. There was even the sound of a bell being rung, as if the great path was wailing. They were really too strong. As extraordinaries, they had already surpassed the great path. However, before these people could make a move, an extremely arrogant voice came from afar. I think you're the ones who are arrogant, right? You even dare to touch the people of the great void race? As soon as the voice fell, the supreme heavens tore through the void and came over. He stood side by side with the third overlord of the black market and smiled. Looks like I'll have to join forces with your black market for the great void race today. Interesting. The third overlord of the black market chuckled. I can handle it even if you don't come. The more the merrier. How can you leave me out? Suddenly, a stream of light streaked across the void from afar. Upon closer inspection, it was Jiang Qinquan of the Jiang clan. After a few breaths, a few more extraordinaries arrived. They were all extraordinaries of the evil race. In just a dozen breaths, a total of 5 extraordinaries and the third overlord of the black market stood together. Each of them was incomparably arrogant. When they looked at the living beings around them, it was as if they were looking at ants. Evil race, you want to ally with the black market? It looks like today's battle will determine the direction of the great thousand world from now on. At this moment, no one made a move. Everyone knew that once this battle started, the consequences would be very serious. A few overlords of the evil race had arrived. The third overlord of the black market was also here. Many patriarchs of the top forces had also arrived. If this battle started, it would be equivalent to half of the forces in the great thousand world starting a war. No one dared to act rashly. At this moment, even the third overlord of the black market and the patriarchs of the evil race did not dare to make a move easily. At the same time, the void in the distance was constantly being torn apart. Those were extraordinaries who had heard the news and rushed over. It's really interesting. Wherever you go, it's so lively. After a dozen breaths, Han Yun also came. He looked at Jiang Chun with a smile on his face and whispered, "It's okay. No one can touch the disciples of the supreme heavenly palace. This great thousand world is really chaotic." Jiang Chun smiled bitterly. When he was in the divine realm of the 9 heavens, no extraordinaries were seen when something big happened. At that time, the strongest was only the emperor. However, after coming to the great thousand world, a few extraordinaries could be created with a casual storm. Jiang Chun had to admit that the foundation of the Great Thousand World was really deep. This water was also muddy enough. I'm going to come out of the mountain. Just as the atmosphere became extremely oppressive and tense, a long roar suddenly came from the Great Thousand Graveyard. Immediately after, a green sword light that made people glow struck out from the Great Thousand Graveyard, tearing apart the laws and order. In the end, the Kendo flower used its roots as legs and ran out of the Great Thousand Graveyard. "Don't run. I'll recognize you as my master." As soon as he came out, he saw Jiang Chun and shouted at the top of his voice. He rushed all the way and even broke the domain that the third overlord of the black market had protected Jiang Chun and Beta Heike. Chapter 1269. Kendo Flower was too fierce. He really cut through the laws and order of the Great Thousand Graveyard and rushed out. He didn't even look at the domain of the third mogul of the black market and directly broke through it. This scene truly shocked the surrounding people to the core. With the strength of the third mogul of the black market, the domain set up by him was so strong that even an extraordinaire of the same level could not break it in an instant. This was simply too shocking. Divine grass, the treasure that ran out of the Great Thousand Graveyard. After a few breaths, the eyes of the people around were burning. Even the patriarchs of the evil races and the third mogul of the black market were staring at Kendo Flower. They all knew that anything that came out of the Great Thousand Graveyard was good stuff. However, in the next moment, something happened that made them stare. Kendo Flower knelt in front of Jiang Chun with a plop. The leaves on the left hit the leaves on the right, as if slapping himself, making a crackling sound. "Boss, please take me in. I was ignorant before. Let's make a master-servant contract now. I'll follow you for the rest of my life." The sword doctrine flower kept talking. Its roots wrapped around Jiang Chun's body, and it wouldn't let go no matter what. Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. How did Kendo Flower, who was so strong and arrogant before, become like this in the blink of an eye? Where was its pride? Where was its integrity? It was nothing. "Didn't you look down on me?" Jiang Chun muttered. "Why? Have you changed your mind?" This Kendo Flower thought for a moment and secretly thought that Jiang Chun's identity in his first life was too special. It was taboo, and sometimes it couldn't be said. After a few breaths, he said righteously, "The elixir of immortality that I shed is with you. I think he must have a unique vision. I think I should be with him. He and I are one. Wherever he goes, I naturally have to go." Jiang Chun's face instantly darkened when he heard that. Even Beta Heike's face was as dark as ink. At the same time, after hearing this, the eyes of the people around were filled with greed. "Will you die if you don't speak?" The corner of Jiang Chun's mouth twitched. Previously, Beta Heike had taken responsibility for this matter and announced to the public that she had only obtained the ancient scripture of time. Now that the sword Tao flower had said that, it would not take long for the entire great wide world to know that Jiang Chun had obtained an immortal herb. This guy really has a big mouth. "Brat, give it to me." Facing the ancient time scripture, everyone was able to remain calm. But facing the immortal medicine, no one could remain calm. Immediately, an extraordinaire shouted. Before anyone could react, he had already teleported in front of Jiang Chun. His palm shot out, heading straight for Jiang Chun. The Tao in his palm floated up and down like a fog. Within the fog, there seemed to be an abyss that wanted to swallow Jiang Chun. "How dare you? Be careful." The third giant of the black market and several evil race ancestors were shocked. No matter how fast they reacted, it was too late at the moment. Whoosh! However, at this moment, a green sword light that made one's heart flutter slashed out. After the green light, half of the extraordinaire's body was cut in half. If he had not retreated in time, this sword would have been enough to cut him into pieces. What the hell? At this moment, the sword Tao flower turned into a little boy of 6 or 7 years old. His face was arrogant as he squinted at the escaping extraordinaire. He had a green longsword in his hand and 2 green swords on his back, one long and one short. He looked like a swordsman. At this moment, A trace of anger suddenly appeared on the sword Tao flower's face. He stared at the extraordinaire whose body he had cut in half and shouted angrily, "Are you trying to stop me from recognizing you as my master?" The extraordinaire was scared out of his wits. He ran all the way until he was far away before he regained his senses and said, "What the hell are you?" "I am a sword Tao flower nurtured by the heavens and the earth. I was buried in the great thousand mines." The sword Tao flower raised his eyebrows and pointed the green long sword in his hand at the extraordinaire. He said contemptuously, "Trash like you is not even qualified to carry my sword." The sword Tao flower? This thing can communicate with spirits. It can even cultivate. Many people gasped and wondered what kind of place the great wide mine was. Even the sword Tao flower could communicate with spirits and cultivate. Since ancient times, there had never been a sword Tao flower like this. "Boss, let's get back to business. Please accept me." At this moment, the sword Tao flower turned around and looked at Jiang Chun with a sincere expression. Jiang Chun heard this and did not think much of it. He nodded and said, "Okay." Since the sword Tao flower was so powerful, Jiang Chun's plan was very clear. If he accepted him as his master, he would have another top fighter by his side. However, before the two of them could form a contract, a group of extraordinaires in the distance suddenly attacked. Not only did they want the ancient scripture of time, but they also wanted the elixir of immortality. Now, whoever attacked first would have a greater chance of getting everything. Although the sword Tao flower was very powerful, with so many extraordinaires attacking at the same time, even the sword Tao flower's expression changed. He directly put up a barrier in front of him to protect Jiang Chun and Beta Heike. Then, he raised the long sword in his hand and said coldly, "Today, I will kill all of you. Those people are together. Don't attack them." Jiang Chun pointed at the group of people from the third overlord of the black market and said, "Understood." The sword Tao flower nodded and then took a step forward. In the process, he took out the two sharp swords on his back. He held one in each hand and bit the other in his mouth. Then his body turned into a green light and pierced through the void. With one slash, the green sword light was vast and mighty. A large crack appeared in the void, and even the laws and order were annihilated by the sword light. Then the second slash was made. The sword light was like a rising moon, and it sent an extraordinaire flying. His body was shattered on the spot. Immediately after that, the third sword strike was executed. It was like the radiant sun had bloomed, and rays of sword light shot out in all directions and blasted everyone back. The three slashes were peerless. However, a battle between extraordinaires was not that simple. In the blink of an eye, the extraordinaires attacked again. "How dare you? Do you really think there's no one in the evil race?" At that moment, the third overlord of the black market and the various great patriarchs of the evil race all attacked. Together with the sword Tao flower, they fought fiercely with the extraordinaires around them. As for Jiang Chun and the others, they stood quietly in the sword Tao flower's territory and watched the battle. This little sword is really fierce. With three swords in his hand, it's as if he owns the world. Beta Heike exclaimed, "Isn't that so? This little guy is really fierce." Jiang Chun nodded. On the side, Yao Dade's face was full of resentment. She shouted, "If it weren't for the contract I made with you, and you took away part of my cultivation, my strength would be far above his." After saying that, he even snorted with a hint of arrogance. Chapter 1270. This place had already exploded. Many transcendents were fighting fiercely. If it weren't for the special field formed by the Great Thousand Mine, the fluctuations of this battle would be enough to destroy a world. Even so, all the creatures in the Great Thousand Worlds sensed it. Some people who had been in seclusion for a long time woke up and looked in the direction of the Great Thousand Mine. Their hearts were filled with horror. It had been a long time since there had been a battle of this level in the Great Thousand World. Is a catastrophe about to befall us? Many transcendents are fighting fiercely. If the aftermath spreads, the entire Great Thousand World will be destroyed. Many people were shocked. If the battle continued, even the field of the great thousand mine would not be able to withstand it. At that time, the power of the transcendence would spread out, not to mention the nearby worlds. Even the entire great thousand world would be affected. Stop! Enough! Suddenly, a mysterious light fell from the endless void, and a person stepped out of the mysterious light. He shouted a few times, but no one paid attention to him. This was because the transcendents present were not good people. Moreover, in the midst of a fierce battle, who would care about such a person? I'm from the Holy Land. After a few breaths, the creature spoke again. With a wave of his hand, a decree illuminated the world. The decree was dazzling, and a huge, holy word was engraved on it. In an instant, everyone was moved. They retreated and stopped fighting. Even the usually arrogant Kendo flower had fear in his eyes. He put away his 3 swords and returned to Jiang Chen's side. What's going on? What's the Holy Land? Jiang Chen asked in confusion. The most powerful force in the great thousand world today. Han Yin also returned and explained, but the Holy Land has never interfered in the affairs of the world, nor did they pursue fame and fortune. They are only responsible for maintaining the balance of the great thousand world. Oh, the most powerful force today? Compared to the ancient heavenly court and the ancient netherworld, what is the Holy Land? Jiang Chen asked. It's difficult to compare. The Holy Land, the ancient netherworld, and the ancient heavenly court are not from the same era. Han Yun said, however, once the Holy Land makes a move, everything will be settled. Everyone, why do you have to make such a big fuss? Don't you know that once the battle between transcendence starts, the entire great thousand world will be difficult to protect? Do you want your home to be turned into ruins? At that moment, the living being from the Holy Land spoke up. It could be considered a reminder to everyone, but it was also an inquiry as to why this battle had happened. We're just fighting over the elixir of immortality, a supernatural being said bluntly. Why? The Holy Land wants the elixir of immortality as well. The Holy Land has never interfered in worldly affairs. What's wrong? Do you want a piece of the pie today? Many people spoke out one after another, as if they were afraid that the Holy Land would make a move. That was because if the Holy Land were to act, the immortal herb would definitely belong to the Holy Land. After all, the title of the strongest force in the world wasn't just for show. In a certain era, the Holy Land had once made a move. At that time, the Holy Land had displayed terrifying strength and foundation. It had swept across the sky and established the Holy Land's position in the great thousand world. From then on, no one dared to challenge the Holy Land's position in the great thousand world. Even the heavenly court wouldn't dare. My Holy Land has never fought for anything. The Holy Land also has the elixir of immortality. The man from the Holy Land said, the elixir of immortality is accompanied by opportunities and good fortune. Since someone has obtained it, it's his opportunity and good fortune. What's the point of snatching it by force? That's easy for you to say. If the Holy Land didn't already have the elixir of immortality, would the Holy Land be so indifferent? Someone said, although they were afraid of the Holy Land, they were furious at this moment, and their words were no longer as respectful as before. The man from the Holy Land did not show a trace of anger. His gaze swept around and finally landed on Jiang Chen. His perception was very sensitive, and he quickly figured out who had the elixir of immortality. Everyone will say the same thing. If you want to snatch the elixir of immortality, you can. The man from the Holy Land said, however, supernatural beings are too powerful. They can't act casually. Otherwise, they'll break a world and destroy it. The consequences will be very serious. What exactly does the Holy Land mean? Han Yin asked. Supernatural beings are not allowed to make a move anymore. Those below supernatural beings can do whatever they want. Our Holy Land will not interfere. If there's a next time and such a crazy war happens again, don't blame our Holy Land for being ruthless. The man from the Holy Land said. After saying that, he left. He didn't even ask if the crowd agreed or not. It was because he firmly believed that since the Holy Land had spoken, No one dared to disagree. However, before he left, he paused for a moment and said softly, "The Dark Blood era is about to descend. Don't fight recklessly. Preserve your strength." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was moved. The Dark Blood era was a taboo in the upper-class world. The Dark Blood era? What's that? Jiang Chen asked. It's equivalent to a great disaster. Hong Yun said in a deep voice. No one knows how that great disaster happened, but every time the Dark Blood era descends, the entire upper-class world will enter the Dark Blood era. During the last Dark Blood era, more than half of the creatures in the upper-class world died. So many died? Jiang Chen was shocked. There were so many creatures in the upper-class world. What did it mean to have half of them die? It was already a lot for half of a world to die, let alone half of all the creatures in the upper-class world. Once the Dark Blood era descends, many unknown creatures will appear. It's very strange. Some people say that they're creatures from the other side of the upper-class world. Some people say that they're a group of depraved creatures. There are also rumors that they're the descendants of immortals, but they're cursed. Hong Yun kept explaining, and the more he said, the more ridiculous it became. However, Hong Yun didn't think so. He had experienced the Dark Blood era before, so he felt that what he said was normal. Only those who had experienced the Dark Blood era personally would understand how terrifying it was. Kid, you can't keep the elixir of immortality. We can stay out of it, but the Holy Land also said that anyone below the level of transcendence can attack. At this moment, the surrounding transcendents were very unwilling, but they didn't dare to go against the Holy Land's wishes. They immediately notified the top geniuses in their forces, as well as those old monsters who had lived for countless years but couldn't break through to transcendence. These people had a deep cultivation base, and their combat strength was also extremely powerful. They believed that as long as these people took action, they could snatch the elixir of immortality from Jiang Chen. The Dark Blood era is about to descend. If I have the elixir of immortality, I can safely survive the Dark Blood era. I must get it. I must get it. In the end, the transcendents all dispersed, giving the Holy Land face. However, everyone knew that this matter wouldn't stop. There were bigger storms ahead. Chapter 1271. There were a few stocks of the elixir of immortality in the world, but they were all controlled by the various top forces and races. Now that a stock of the elixir of immortality had suddenly appeared in the hands of someone with a low cultivation level, it would naturally cause a fight. However, since the sacred ground had stepped in, Jiang Chen didn't have to worry about those extraordinaires taking action against him. After all, the sacred ground was the strongest force now, and its words were like an imperial edict. However, Jiang Chen also knew that some extraordinaires wouldn't be so obedient. They might even secretly take action against him. I can't remember about cultivation. The most important thing now is to find a place to settle down. Jiang Chen sighed softly. Find where? You are now the strongest worker in my black market. You can't go anywhere except to my black market. The third head of the black market walked over, black fog floating around him. His aura was very unstable. In the previous battle, many extraordinaires had taken action. The third head of the black market didn't gain any advantage, and was even almost injured. Does the black market really want to snatch someone from the supreme heavenly palace? Hong Yun's expression was very ugly. He stared at the third head of the black market and said in a low voice, "The black market doesn't belong to you alone. Boss and I have both agreed to this. If you're not convinced, go and talk to the other two big brothers of the black market." The third head of the black market said provocatively, "Your supreme heavenly palace has a strong foundation, but do you dare to touch my black market?" As soon as these words came out, Hong Yun's face immediately darkened. The black market's waters were too deep. They couldn't act recklessly. Even the heavenly court had to give face to the black market. Can you bring Beta Heike back to the supreme heavenly palace? He has the ancient scripture of time. I'm afraid that it's not safe for him to stay in Tongtian Garden, Jiang Chen said to Hong Yun. Tongtian Garden was strong and had a strong foundation, but there were too many people eyeing them now. In addition, Beta Heike wasn't an official disciple of Tongtian Garden. Once an extraordinaire found Beta Heike, Tongtian Garden might not protect Beta Heike. That works too. Hong Yun nodded, then looked at Yao Dade meaningfully, as if he had guessed Yao Dade's identity. Yao Dade was indifferent. She came from the Great Thousand Mine. Even if she followed Jiang Chen now, she still had the Great Thousand Mine to support her. Just like before, if someone really wanted to take her away, she didn't believe that the person in the Great Thousand Graveyard wouldn't do anything. What are you looking at? Am I good looking? Yao Dade glanced at Hong Yun with disdain in his eyes and said, "When I was at my peak, you were nothing." Hong Yun was stunned for a moment. Being looked down upon by a little girl really surprised him. Jiang Chen smiled awkwardly and hurriedly explained. He also came out of the Great Thousand Mine burial ground. He has a strange temper. Don't mind him. Let's not be calculative with a brat. Hong Yun waved his hand, then got up and prepared to bring Beta Heike back to the Supreme Heavenly Palace. As for Jiang Chun, he remained where he was, waiting for the third mogul of the black market to punish him. Boss, quickly make a contract with me. Kendo Flower was very anxious at this moment. He sent a wisp of his soul to Jiang Chun, his face full of expectation and desire. Jiang Chun smiled and thought that after keeping Kendo Flower, he would have a strong fighter by his side in the future. Jiang Chun even thought that if Kendo Flower followed him, would he be able to compete with the third mogul of the black market? At that time, he would return the token of the strongest worker to the black market and get rid of the black market. Kid, he's no match for me. Who was the third mogul of the black market? He had lived for many years and could see through Jiang Chen's thoughts at a glance. Black fog surged on his body, and a terrifying aura suddenly appeared and went straight for Kendo Flower. Kendo Flower's expression froze. He unsheathed his long sword and stared at the third mogul of the black market. However, the third mogul of the black market soon calmed down. With a hint of ridicule, he asked, "How about it? Do you think you're my match? If I fight with my life on the line, I don't know who will live and who will die," said Kendo Flower. This meant that Kendo Flower admitted that he was no match for the third mogul of the black market. However, as he said, when it came to a life-and-death battle, the outcome was uncertain. After that, Kendo Flower ignored the third mogul of the black market and finally made a master-servant contract with Jiang Chun. The moment the contract was made, Jiang Chen's face darkened. This was because Jiang Chen's cultivation level had soared from lower ultimate god to upper ultimate god. On the other hand, Sword Wei Flower's cultivation level dropped to the lower god emperor level. What the hell? Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. He thought that he had taken in a strong fighter, but who would have thought that Kendo Flower and Yao Dade would return their cultivation levels to him? Without a strong fighter by his side, he could not even speak with confidence. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have taken you in. Jiang Chun sighed. Kendo Flower smiled and said, "It's always like that. We're born extraordinary. Once we make a master-servant contract with other creatures, we'll return our cultivation levels to our masters. However, my cultivation level will recover soon." Hearing this, Jiang Chun felt a little better. Is everything settled? Now I'll assign you a mission. This is your first mission in the black market. You must do it beautifully and shut the mouths of the other black market executives, said the third mogul of the black market. The other executives were not very happy to take you in, so you must complete your first mission beautifully. Tisk, they're not happy, but I am, Jiang Chun said snappily. However, Jiang Chen's eyes lit up when he heard the mission given by the third mogul of the black market. This was because the third mogul of the black market wanted him to go to a sect in the southern starfield called the Flowing Cloud Sect to gather information about the Dark Blood Age. The Dark Blood Age was about to arrive. All the major sects were preparing, and the black market was no exception. If they were well prepared, the black market might be able to survive the Dark Blood Age. At the same time, the black market could also use this information to exchange for many treasures. Moreover, the third mogul of the black market told Jiang Chen that he had a friend in the Flowing Cloud sect. Who is it? asked Jiangchun. You know that those who came from the 6 realms to the greater thousand world don't have a good life. Some of them are constantly changing sex, and some of them are traded away like goods, said the third mogul of the black market. So, I really don't know which of your friends is in the flowing cloud sect. Then why don't the black market executives go and gather information themselves? Asked Jiangchun. If they wait for us to do it, it won't be as simple as gathering information. The entire flowing cloud sect might not even exist, said the third mogul of the black market. Then the third mogul of the black market opened a portal and said, Go in. I'll send you directly to the southern starfield. Chapter 1272. Jiangchun had always wanted to go to the southern star area. However, now that Nian Chang'e was no longer around, it would be boring to go to the southern star area. However, this time, Jiangchun planned to go to the southern star area to find those people. After stepping into the portal, they crossed the star area in a few seconds and arrived at the southern star area. However, as soon as they entered the southern star area, Jiangchun was dumbfounded. He did not know the way at all. The third leader of the black market did not tell him where the flowing cloud sect was, and he did not have a map. At this moment, they were in a starry sky. They could not see the end of it, and there was not a single living thing in sight. This is so unreliable. Jiangchun's face darkened. Is this how the black market works? They are even more unreliable than me. Roar! Suddenly, a ray of starlight appeared in the distance. Upon closer inspection, it was a star that had exploded. Terrifying energy waves spread across the area like rainbow-colored lights, rushing toward them like ripples. Kendo Hua stepped forward and swung her sword. The emerald sword radiance shone brightly and shattered the energy waves. However, in the next moment, Jiangchun and the other two's faces changed. This was because at the place where the star had exploded, there was a silver-white living thing. It looked like a real dragon, but it had an extra pair of dragon horns. At the same time, its tail was like a snake's tail. There were barbs on its tail, and black liquid was dripping from it. This is a starry sky beast. Kendo Hua narrowed her eyes and returned to Jiangchun's side. She pulled him up and was about to run. The starry sky beast was a special living thing that was born and bred by heaven and earth, but it was very rare. Every starry sky beast was different. Some were like beasts, some were like humans, and some were like elves. However, every starry sky beast's strength was unparalleled. The moment they were born, they were already at the Emperor realm. This is a newly born starry sky beast. Yao Dade explained, the starry sky beast hides in stars. When a starry sky beast is born, the star it resides in will explode. Oh, it looks pretty cool, Jiangchun whispered. He had no idea how terrifying the starry sky beasts were. However, to Yao Dade and Kendo Flower, the strength of the cosmic beasts was comparable to that of emperors of the same realm. There was a saying in the world that if it weren't for the fact that there were too few star beasts, this world would be ruled by the star beasts. Since ancient times, countless geniuses and powerful figures had died in the hands of the sky beasts. They could be said to be synonymous with being invincible in the same realm. Run! Our cultivations have fallen, and we are no match for him. Kendo Flower panicked. Looking at the calm expression on Jiangchun's face, he realized that this guy was completely unaware of the seriousness of the matter. The cultivation of an emperor, and I'm a high-level supreme god now, Jiangchun muttered. His eyes shone brightly as he said, It's a good opportunity to test my combat power now. One had to know that Jiangchun's cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds due to the reverse nurturing from Yao Dade and the Sword Dao flower. This made him feel as if his foundation was not solid enough, especially on his Dao fruit. A trace of dark matter had appeared that was caused by the rapid and fierce increase in his cultivation. Jiangchun felt that the current him could not continue to increase his cultivation. Instead, he needed to train and settle down, and the best way to train was to fight continuously. And right in front of him, there was such an opportunity. Do you want to die? Kendo Flower panicked. Even emperors of the same realm did not dare to fight with the cosmic beasts, let alone Jiang Chun, who was a supreme god. However, he looked at Yao Dade again and muttered, "That's not a problem. Anyway, I have the immortal elixir. It can save your life." However, before Jiang Chun could make a move, he saw three young people rushing over from afar. Their goal was very clear. They were going straight for the cosmic beasts. These three young people were wearing long golden robes with a blue river pattern embroidered on it. Their cultivation had all reached the high-level emperor realm. Each of them had extraordinary auras, far surpassing that of ordinary emperor realm cultivators. TSK, TSK, TSK. Why are the young people these days so stubborn? Do they think that they can suppress the cosmic beasts with numbers? Kendo Flower was speechless. It was as if he could already see the tragic end of the three young people. The young people these days are ignorant and fearless. Yao Dade sighed. Jiang Chun did not say anything. He stood quietly on the spot and watched the three young people fight with the cosmic beasts. He wanted to see how strong the cosmic beasts were. If they were too strong, then he would retreat first. After all, for Jiang Chun, things like integrity and dignity were not worth mentioning at all. "Senior brother, save us." Half an hour later, the three young people were obviously at a disadvantage. One of them was swept by the cosmic beast's tail. The black liquid dripping from the tail corroded half of his body. At this moment, the three of them began to panic and shouted loudly, "Fellow cultivator, save us." At the same time, the killer shouted and ran towards Jiang Chun. Scram! Kendo Flower's face was dark. He did not want to fight the cosmic beast. Even Yao Dade could not stay calm. A trace of fear appeared on his peerless face. Jiang Chun was very calm about this. Waving his hand at the three, he said with a smile, "Come behind me." "What do you mean? Are you really going to fight the cosmic beast? This thing is not to be trifled with." The Sword Doctrine Flower and Yao Dade tried to persuade him. They wanted to take Jiang Chun away from here. However, Jiang Chun's eyes showed no fear. In fact, he was a little excited. Previously, when he saw the three of them fighting the cosmic beast, he more or less understood the strength of the cosmic beast. Jiang Chun thought that he might really be able to fight the cosmic beast. However, before Jiang Chun could make a move, a golden light rushed over from afar. Then, a burly but slightly chubby young man landed in front of the cosmic beast. "Fight!" At this moment, the young man roared angrily. His entire body was covered in golden light. When he punched out, it was as if a golden dragon head was roaring out. The power of the punch caused the void to crack. Even the color of heaven and earth dimmed under this punch. So powerful. "What is this, young man?" Kendo Flower and Yao Dade exclaimed. They clearly saw that the chubby young man's cultivation was only at the lower God Emperor realm. However, with this punch, the cosmic beast was pushed back. Although the cosmic beast was not injured, the cosmic beast that was said to be invincible in the same realm was pushed back by a human cultivator who was much lower than it. Could it be that the legend of being invincible in the same realm was going to be broken? "That's our eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother, go for it." The young man standing behind Jiang Chun and the other two were excited. They seemed to be very confident in the chubby young man. Of course, it was not just the three of them. At this moment, even Jiang Chun was full of confidence in the chubby young man. This was because he was an old acquaintance. Chapter 1273. Golden light shot up into the sky as the young man waved his fists. His aura and vigor were rare among his peers. He did not use any martial arts, Taoist skills, or divine skills. He was fighting the cosmic beast with his physical body. Jianaohua and Yao Dade were dumbfounded. He was only an emperor god, but he could fight the invincible cosmic beast with his physical body alone. This was ridiculous. There's nothing to be surprised about. "This is his strength," Jiang Chun said with a smile. When the three youths behind him heard this, their faces were filled with curiosity. They knew the strength of their eldest senior brother, so they were confident in him. But who was this person in front of them? Why was he so confident in their eldest senior brother? "You know our eldest senior brother?" One of them asked. Know him? More than that, Jiang Chen said with a smile. He and I are brothers. Hmm? Brothers? Really? Are you from the Six Realms? The three of them reacted quickly, but before Jiang Chen could answer, the cosmic beast suddenly became furious and attacked the young man with its dragon claws. Poof! The young man could not withstand the attack and was sent flying. Golden blood splattered everywhere. However, he stood up again in the next moment. He looked determined and fearless. He rushed out again and attacked with his fists clenched. He punched again and again like a fearless god of war. He can't defeat the cosmic beast. Jiandao Hua sighed. If he's in the same realm, he might be able to break the legend of the invincible cosmic beast. It's a pity that he's only an emperor god. Yao Dade sighed. Jiang Chen nodded. He could see that the young man was no match for the cosmic beast. After a few seconds, Jiang Chen stepped out and shouted at the young man, Jiang Lu, come back. The youngster, who had been fighting fiercely, suddenly stopped. Then he looked back abruptly. When he saw Jiang Chen, his eyes were filled with excitement. He did not continue to fight. To be precise, he was very obedient. He directly returned to Jiang Chen's side. Boss, Jiang Chen exclaimed. He never thought that he would meet Jiang Chen here. Let me try. Jiang Chen chuckled and took a step forward. He was like a tiger with the shadow of a dragon behind him. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the sky beast. Then, just like Jiang Lu, he didn't use any skills and just fought the starry sky beast with his body. T.H., do you think everyone is as powerful as my eldest senior brother? How strong can his physical body be without the ancient sacred body? The three youths said disdainfully, completely not optimistic about Jiang Chen. My boss's strength is not something you can imagine. Jiang Lu glared at the three people behind him and pointed to the front. Just watch carefully. Your boss. It can't be. Is he the Jiang Chen you often mention? The three youths exclaimed. They had always heard of Jiang Chen's name from Jiang Lu, but they had never seen him before. Of course, they had also heard that Jiang Chen was doing very well in the Great Thousand World. He was doing very well, and he was regarded as one of the best among the younger generation. However, they had never thought that the legendary person's cultivation was so low. He was only a divine master. Tisk TSK. Brute. Half an incense stick's worth of time later, Jiandao Hua was speechless because the battle was still ongoing. Moreover, Jiang Chen's attacking methods were too powerful. He had no defense at all. It was all offensive. Bloody marks appeared on his body from the starry sky beast scratches. However, they were just bloody marks. The starry sky beast's emperor-level attack could not tear apart Jiang Chen's body. It was too shocking. I'll kill you. Jiang Chen was also furious. Under his violent attacks, the starry sky beast did not fall. With a roar, the dragon and tiger shadows behind Jiang Chen appeared together. The Emperor's Vine and the immortal bird Dao Soul also appeared. The vines that looked like they were made of gold broke through the void and instantly wrapped around the starry sky beast's body. Then, the immortal bird turned into a stream of flame and rushed out. Boom! With an explosion, the starry sky beast was sent flying, but it was immediately pulled back by the Emperor's Vine. At the same time, a green lamp appeared and burned above Jiang Chen's head. An illusory shadow was added to Jiang Chen's body. 1,000 transformations, heaven slash. Another angry roar was heard. Then, an unparalleled sword light burst out, as if it was going to cut everything. The great path law in this place was shaking. Buzz! The sword light struck out, shaking the sky. Under the sword, the starry sky beast's body was cut open, and its head rolled out. However, the starry sky beast was too extraordinary. After its head was cut off, it reconstructed its body in an instant. Then, it let out an angry roar, turned around, and ran away. It ran away. No way. The starry sky beast can run away? At this moment, everyone was shocked. An ultimate god had chased away an emperor-level starry sky beast? I can't believe I didn't win. At this moment, Jiang Chen returned with a dark face. His aura was fluctuating. It was obvious that this battle was a little difficult for him. However, the way he spoke made him seem a little casual. Kendo Flower and Yao Dade rolled their eyes. They really wanted to ask, if this is called not winning, then what is considered to be winning? Even the corner of Jianglu's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, boss is still the boss. He has such high standards for himself. How have you been recently? Jiang Chen asked. Not bad. I've been sold a few times. Now I have a safe place to stay, Jianglu said casually. However, when these words fell into Jiang Chen's ears, it sounded a little sad and helpless. Jianglu was different from Jiang Chen. After entering the Great Thousand World, Jianglu was similar to the creatures in the other 6 realms. He was treated as a commodity and constantly changed owners. That kind of feeling was unbearable for everyone. When Jianglu spoke to Jiang Chen, he said it so casually because he did not want to make Jiang Chen feel uncomfortable. He's now the eldest senior brother of our Golden River sect. The elders and sect master of our Golden River sect value him and are vigorously cultivating him. They hope that he can help the Golden River sect and become a great help to the Golden River sect's holy son in the future. The 3 Golden River sect disciples next to him said. When Jiang Chen heard this, he frowned slightly. He looked at Jianglu and asked, How are you doing in the Golden River sect? Very good, Jianglu said naively. Everyone is very good to me. I just need to assist the holy son. What about you? Jiang Chen asked. Me? Isn't it good for me to be the eldest senior brother of the Golden River sect? Jianglu smiled and waved his hand. A trace of vicissitudes flashed in his eyes as he said, Perhaps this is how life is. Chapter 1274. Jianglu had changed. Although he was still simple and honest, he seemed to have experienced a lot. However, in Jiang Chen's eyes, it was not as simple as a change, nor was it as simple as having experienced a lot. He knew that Jianglu had suffered a lot of grievances, just like Beta Heike. Only when a person had suffered a great grievance and had no way to vent it would they become a different person. Everything is in the past. Now, I'm back. Jiang Chen patted Jianglu on the shoulder and said with a smile, It just so happens that the 3 of us have nowhere to go. Why don't we go to the Golden River sect as guests? This? Okay. Jianglu nodded, looking as if he was in a difficult position. This made Jiang Chen puzzled. As the eldest disciple of the Golden River sect, did Jianglu not have the right to invite people back to the sect as guests? It seems that Jianglu's life in the Golden River sect wasn't very good. Jiang Chen sighed in his heart. Then, under Jianglu's lead, the group entered a world and then entered the Golden River sect. The Golden River sect was located in the Golden World. This world was very prosperous and there were many cultivators. The great Tao laws were very strong here. Cultivating in this world was like cultivating in a holy land. It was twice the result with half the effort. At this moment, Jiang Chen and the others entered the Golden River sect. Looking at the magnificent buildings of the Golden River sect, Jiang Chen couldn't help but be slightly speechless. Looking around, the entire Golden River sect was built on the clouds. There were fake mountains and fake rivers and palaces were everywhere. Auspicious signs rose and fell in the Golden River sect, making it look like a fairyland. Even if this kind of sect was not the top, it was not far from it. Eldest senior brother, you're finally back. As soon as the group entered the Golden River sect, several disciples of the Golden River sect hurried over. They didn't look at Jiang Chen and the others. Instead, they came to Jianglu. One of them urged, Eldest senior brother, the Holy Son wants you to hurry over. He said that he has something important for you to do. Hurry up and go. If you're late, you'll suffer. The Holy Son is in a bad mood recently. Don't provoke him. Hurry up. You're a fugitive from the 6 realms. It's already very good that you're the eldest disciple of the Golden River sect. You have to work hard, or else you'll be kicked out of the sect. The other disciples had strange expressions on their faces, and their words were harsh and harsh. In this regard, Jianglu simply smiled and didn't get angry. He nodded and said, Okay, I'll go now. However, before Jianglu could take a step forward, Jiang Chen directly stopped him and said in a deep voice, They asked you to go. So you'll go? Yeah. Boss, I forgot. Zhang Lu suddenly reacted. Now he had met up with his boss. Since they had reunited, what was there to be afraid of? In Jiang Chen's eyes, no matter what difficulties they encountered, no matter what enemies they encountered, as long as Jiang Chen was there, everything was fine. At this moment, a ray of light appeared in Jiang Lu's eyes. It was a kind of confidence, and it was also a ray of sharpness that had disappeared from his eyes for a long time. Brat, who are you? Who are you to meddle in the affairs of the Golden River sect? Get out of here! Who let you in? Those disciples were immediately angry, and their words were very unpleasant. In particular, one of them even pointed at Jiang Chen's nose and cursed a few times. You're courting death. At this moment, Jiang Lu, who was usually very obedient in the Golden River sect, was immediately angry. With a furious roar, he threw out a punch and directly sent those people flying. My boss is not someone you can instruct. How dare you insult my boss? Today, I won't kill you because I'm giving the Golden River sect face. Jiang Lu said coldly. Seeing Jiang Lu's behavior and hearing his words, Jiang Chen smiled. He walked to Jiang Lu's side, patted him on the shoulder, and said, Our lives should be like this. How dare you? Who dares to behave atrociously in the Golden River sect? At this moment, an angry roar came from not far away. Then, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe landed in front of the mountain gate of the Golden River sect. Elderly, this guy Jiang Lu dared to hit us. He's really rebelling. A mere bastard from the Six Realms dares to attack the native creatures of our great thousand world. The disciples who were sent flying hurriedly said. When they looked at Jiang Lu, their eyes were not only filled with anger, but also killing intent. There was even a trace of contempt and disdain in their eyes that could not be concealed. Jiang Lu, our Golden River sect kindly took you in, not to let you behave atrociously here. The middle-aged man did not ask for an explanation, and he angrily rebuked Jiang Lu. When Jiang Lu heard this, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Then he slowly turned his head to look at Jiang Chen and sighed softly. Boss, I've endured for a long time. If you have any grievances, then vent them. I'm here today, Jiang Chen said softly. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Lu directly punched out. The golden fist was like a brilliant sun, and it directly bombarded the middle-aged man's body. Then, accompanied by a muffled sound, the middle-aged man, who was a high-level divine emperor, could not block Jiang Lu's punch and was sent flying. When this scene fell into the eyes of the other disciples of the Golden River sect, it was like a sudden clap of thunder. It should be known that this middle-aged man was an elder of the Golden River sect. Even if he was not the great elder, his status was very noble. As a disciple of the Golden River sect, Jiang Lu actually dared to attack an elder. This was simply outrageous. Jiang Lu, you're courting death. At this moment, the middle-aged man struggled to get up. His face was extremely ugly, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. As an elder of the Golden River sect, he was now injured by Jiang Lu in front of several disciples. For him, this could be said to be a complete loss of face. I'm courting death? Jiang Lu raised his eyebrows and said contemptuously, If it weren't for the fact that I'm still a disciple of the Golden River sect, that punch just now would have killed you. This is the Golden River sect. I think you're tired of living. The middle-aged man shouted angrily. Then, he waved his hand and shouted, Men, take him down for me. Let's see who dares to take him down. Jiang Chen also shouted angrily. At the same time, he waved his hand at Jian Daohua and said, Go. Jian Daohua did not waste any words. A long sword appeared in his hand, and with a flash of sword light, he killed the middle-aged man. Such a decisive killing truly gave everyone a fright. They could not believe that these people dared to kill their elder in the Golden River sect. Presumptuous! Who dares to behave atrociously in the Golden River sect? At this moment, several figures landed here. All of them were high-level divine emperors. The person in the lead was a young man. His cultivation was the highest, at the level of a lower divine emperor. This person was the holy son of the Golden River sect, Lan Chu. When he saw the dead middle-aged man, his face became gloomy. With anger and questioning, he looked at Zhang and said coldly, "Who did this?" Chapter 1275. Chu Lan was the holy son of the Golden River sect. His status in the Golden River sect was second only to the sect leader. At this moment, his face was extremely gloomy as he stared at Zhang Lu. The killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. Zhang Lu was quite calm. After all, as long as Jiang Chun was there, he would be safe. "I killed him. What do you want?" Kendo Flower raised his eyebrows, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Kendo Flower was arrogant and murderous. He did not care who you were. Anyone who dared to provoke him would be killed without mercy. Of course, the premise was that Kendo Flower could defeat his opponent. Ever since he signed the contract with Jiang Chun, Kendo Flower's cultivation had dropped a lot. However, in his eyes, a mere lower emperor was nothing. "You got guts. How dare you kill my elders in my Golden River sect?" Chu Lan shouted angrily. "Do you really not know how to write the word death?" This was the Golden River sect, and Chu Lan's cultivation was above Kendo Flower's, so he was not afraid of Kendo Flower at all. However, in the next moment, his expression turned unsightly. Kendo Flower pulled out his sword, pointed it at Chu Lan, and said coldly, "I don't know how to write the word death, but I know what a dead person should do. How dare you attack me? Go to the Divine Emperor." Chu Lan was also angry. His aura exploded, and he looked like he was about to attack. However, in the next moment, a trace of mockery appeared in Chu Lan's eyes. He looked at Zhang Lu and said in a deep voice, "If you kill them today, this matter will be settled. Otherwise, you will die with them today." The Golden River sect's reputation cannot be lost. Hearing this, Zhang Lu suddenly laughed. He looked at Chu Lan as if he was looking at a fool. There was contempt in his eyes as he said, "Do you really think you're someone? You're not even qualified to kill me. How dare you kill my boss and the others?" "What boss?" Chu Lan was stunned for a moment. Then, he looked at Kendo Flower and exclaimed, "You're Jiang Chun?" Obviously, Chu Lan had heard of Jiang Chen's name from Zhang Lu. He was also aware of Jiang Chen's current status and identity in the Great Thousand World, as well as his strength that left his peers in the dust. If this person was really Jiang Chun, then even if he was the holy son of the Golden River sect, he wouldn't dare to make a move. In fact, even the sect lord of the Golden River sect would have to greet him with a smile. "I'm not Jiang Chun." Kendo Flower shook his head. Before Kendo Flower could say anything else, Chu Lan's expression changed again. The killing intent in his eyes reappeared, and he said coldly, "Since you are not Jiang Chun, how dare you kill people in my Golden River sect? I think you're really courting death." "That? I'm not Jiang Chun, but Jiang Chun is here." Kendo Flower had a strange expression on his face as he pointed at Jiang Chun and said, "Look, he's right here." Yao Date interrupted. "Jiang Lu is Jiang Chen's underling. They are brothers." "What? Jiang Chun is really here?" "The Jiang Chun who has Heavenly Garden, the evil race, the Chong and clan, and the Supreme Heavenly Palace behind him?" At this moment, the group of people from the Golden River sect was completely shocked. Now that Jiang Chen's reputation was too great, they had long heard of him. Now that they met the person in question, they were all pale with fright. Although the Golden River sect was strong and could be considered a top sect in the Golden World, it was nothing compared to Heavenly Garden and the evil race. They were very panicked at this moment, and they knew that if they angered Jiang Chen today, the entire Golden River sect would cease to exist. "This, Supreme Lord, we have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please forgive us." So it's Supreme Jiang Chun who has graced us with his presence. Men, quickly welcome him. Chu Lan and the others reacted quickly. They apologized and showed great sincerity. However, Jiang Chen didn't care at all. With a trace of ridicule on his face, he said, "Didn't you kill me with drugs before? What? Now you know you were wrong?" "That was all a misunderstanding." Chu Lan hurriedly explained, "We didn't know it was you. If we knew it was you, we wouldn't have dared to do anything to you. Yes, Jianglu, say a few words quickly. Our Golden River sect has never mistreated you, right? At this moment, Chu Lan and the others panicked. They saw a trace of killing intent in Jiang Qin's mocking expression. Boss, the Golden River sect has been very good to me. Jianglu thought for a moment. Although his life in the Golden River sect wasn't satisfactory, he didn't suffer much. He was just a little aggrieved in the Golden River sect and didn't get any respect. However, Jianglu also knew very well that he came from the Six Realms. It was normal for the creatures of the Great Thousand World to look down on him and bully him. Since you've spoken, then this matter is over, Jiang Chun said softly. As long as Jianglu was fine, it was fine. Come, please come to the main hall. Chu Lan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. The arrogant attitude and killing intent from before had disappeared. Moreover, at this moment, his heart was still filled with fear. He knew that if it weren't for Jianglu's words, Jiang Chun would have started a massacre today. One had to know that Jiang Qin's reputation in the Great Thousand World was now very bad. Jianglu, look at what you've done. Why didn't you say earlier that your big brother was coming? As the sect leader of the Golden River sect, I should have gone to welcome him personally. After a dozen breaths, in the main hall of the Golden River sect, an old man held Jiang Qin's hands with a warm face and asked about his well-being. He was so filial that it was needless to say. Come on, I came here today for 2 reasons. First, to see Jianglu, and second, to inquire about the Flowing Cloud sect. Jiang Chun said directly. He even patted the sect leader of the Golden River sect meaningfully on the shoulder and said, My brother can't stand any grievances. Fellow Taoist Jiang Chun is too polite. From now on, Jianglu is the holy son of the Golden River sect. The sect leader of the Golden River sect hurriedly said, ignoring Chu Lan's ugly expression. This surprised Jiang Chun, and he couldn't help but ask, You let Jianglu, a person from the Six Realms, be the holy son of the Golden River sect? Will the Golden River sect be convinced? Yes, the sect leader of the Golden River sect said, but in his heart, he despised Jiang Chun fiercely. With you backing Jianglu, who in the Golden River sect would dare to be unconvinced? Unless you're dead. By the way, why are you asking about the Flowing Cloud sect? The sect leader of the Golden River sect asked, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He said, the Flowing Cloud sect is the strongest sect in the Golden World. Even compared to the top sects in the outside world, the Flowing Cloud sect is not much weaker. Moreover, the Flowing Cloud sect rarely communicates with the outside world, so I really don't know much about the Flowing Cloud sect. Is that so? You really don't know, or you don't dare to say it? Jiang Chun narrowed his eyes, seemingly inadvertently revealing the strongest worker's token on his waist. Chapter 1276. It wasn't hard to imagine how strong the Flowing Cloud sect was. After all, none of the forces targeted by the black market were weak. What's more, the Flowing Cloud sect had some secrets about the Dark Blood era. How could an ordinary force know such secrets? At this moment, Jiang Chun stared at the sect leader of the Flowing Cloud sect with an unfriendly gaze and said coldly, Don't tell me you don't know my current identity. When the sect leader of the Flowing Cloud sect heard this, his face turned pale. He looked at the token of the strongest worker on Jiang Chen's waist and was scared out of his wits. He knew very well what this token meant. Jiang Chen now had the support of the 3 giants of the black market, not to mention Tongtian Garden, the evil race, and the supreme heavenly palace. The black market alone could easily destroy the Golden River sect. This, fellow Taoist, please let me go. We are just a mere Golden River sect. How could we dare to challenge the Flowing Cloud sect? If the Flowing Cloud sect finds out that we betrayed them, our Golden River sect will be gone. The sect leader of the Flowing Cloud sect begged, not wanting to cause trouble. When Jiang Chen heard this, he chuckled and said, I'll give you 2 choices. The first is that the Flowing Cloud sect destroys your Golden River sect. The second is that I destroy your Golden River sect now. You have to know that the Flowing Cloud sect may not know that it was you who betrayed them, so they may not destroy your Golden River sect for this matter. But I'm different, Jiang Chun said softly. You can figure out the pros and cons of this for yourself. As soon as these words came out, the sect leader of the Flowing Clouds sect's face completely collapsed. He knew that if he didn't say anything today, Jiang Chun would definitely have the ability to destroy the Golden River sect. But if he said something, perhaps the Golden River sect could still be saved. In addition, he had already made Jiang Chun the holy son of the Golden River sect. In the future, he would be in charge of the Golden River sect. Jiang Chun couldn't let the Golden River sect be destroyed, right? At that time, if the Flowing Cloud sect really came to find him, how could Jiang Chun leave Jiang Lu alone? I have to hug Jiang Lu's thigh tightly. The sect master of the Golden River sect waved his hand and drew a map in the air. The Flowing Cloud Martial School is in the north of this world, on top of the boundless snow mountain. However, their mountain gate is very well hidden, with layers upon layers of restrictions and formations. Even if an ordinary person found the mountain gate, it would be very difficult to enter. The sect master of the Flowing Cloud sect said, I told you about the position of the Flowing Cloud sect. However, if the Flowing Cloud sect wants to deal with the Golden River sect in the future, don't worry about that. Now that Jiang Lu has become the holy son of the Golden River sect, I naturally have some relationship with the Golden River sect, Jiang Chun said with a smile. From now on, you have to take care of Jiang Lu and the Golden River sect. No problem. The sect master of the Golden River sect immediately agreed. After that, Jiang Chun got up and walked out of the Golden River sect. This was his first mission, and he had to complete it as soon as possible. Furthermore, he had to do it beautifully. This was the only way to shut the mouths of the other higher-ups of the black market. At that time, the three giants of the black market would treat Jiang Chun better, and they would even protect him. Boss, I'll go with you. Jiang Lu caught up with him and said seriously, Boss, I don't want to stay here. I want to go with you. Logically speaking, Jiang Chun had finally found Jiang Lu, so he naturally wanted to keep him by his side. However, Jiang Chun knew very well that his current situation was very delicate. Although he had the support of all the major forces, it was precisely because of this that he could stir up the entire situation. Right now, he didn't know how many people were watching him. He was in a very dangerous situation. If Jiang Lu stayed by his side, the degree of danger would be, you stay in the Golden River sect and develop well. I will need you in the future, Jiang Chun said. When the time comes, I will make this great world tremble. Boss, you mean you want me to develop in the Golden River sect and lead the Golden River sect to support you when the time comes? Jiang Lu asked. Jiang Chun didn't nod or shake his head. He just patted Jiang Lu on the shoulder and said, I haven't avenged the 6 realms and the ancestral realm yet. Jiang Lu nodded, as if he had understood. Then he watched Jiang Chun leave. After Jiang Chun left, the sect master of the Golden River sect walked over to Jiang Lu and asked with a smile, From now on, you are the holy son of the Golden River sect. What are your plans? Boss said that I should develop well in the Golden River sect. Jiang Lu said directly, I think he wants me to be the sect master of the Golden River sect. Jiang Lu, you're a little too much. You are from the 6 realms, and we are all holy spirits of the great world. Do you think we will be convinced to let you, a person from the 6 realms, take charge of the Golden River sect? Jiang Lu, if it weren't for Jiang Chun, do you think the position of Holy Son would be yours? The elders of the Golden River sect had ugly expressions. They didn't want Jiang Lu to be the sect master of the Golden River sect. However, the sect master of the Golden River sect immediately nodded and said, Okay, as long as you step into the Imperial realm, the position of sect master will be passed to you. As soon as these words came out, the elders of the Golden River sect immediately became anxious. However, before they could speak, the sect master of the Golden River sect waved his hand and said, Heavenly Garden dared to support Jiang Chun, a person from the 6 realms. The evil race dared to do the same. Supreme Heavenly Palace dared to do the same, and now the black market did the same. Tell me why? Why? One of the elders asked with a puzzled expression. When the ancestral realm was destroyed, although it involved a lot of people, it doesn't mean that every force in the great world took action. The sect master of the Golden River sect reminded them, as for those forces that didn't take action, what do you think their attitude towards the ancestral realm is? You mean Heavenly Garden, the evil race, Supreme Heavenly Palace, and even the black market want to undo the ancestral realm? Let the ancestral realm return. This is impossible, these elders exclaimed. They were not stupid, so they naturally understood what their sect master meant. However, with just these few forces, could they really help the ancestral realm return? One had to know that the forces that had attacked the ancestral realm back then were not weaker than Supreme, Heavenly Palace, or the black market. They just want an excuse, a suitable excuse, so that they can undo the ancestral realm, the sect master of the Golden River sect said. And this excuse is Jiang Chun. Then, since they want an excuse, then we can help them find a few more excuses. For example, Jiang Lu. This is the era of great waves washing away the sand. We should also take a side. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but fall silent. Some were terrified, while others were excited. They all knew very well that the sect master was making a bet. He didn't have the capital to bet on Jiang Chun, but he definitely had the capital to bet on Jiang Lu. If the bet was right, the Golden River sect would be ranked high in the great world in the future. It might even surpass it now. I don't understand what you mean. I only know that I will do whatever boss asks me to do, Jiang Lu said softly. I won't let boss down. I also hope that you won't let boss down either. Chapter 1277. Jiang Chen's group left. They followed the coordinates given by the Golden River sect's sect master and flew. A day later, they arrived at the boundless snow mountain in the north of the Golden River world. Looking around, there was a vast expanse of white everywhere. Snowflakes fell one after another, and strands of divine light flickered in the cold. It was like a paradise in the human world. There are indeed formations and restrictions here. They're very profound. Jiang Chen observed the place for a while. Formation patterns were floating in his eyes, and he was able to see through everything here. Can you break them? Jian Aohua asked. Yes, but it'll take a lot of time, Jiang Chen said honestly. After all, this was the Flowing Cloud sect's mountain gate. The formations and restrictions here were naturally not ordinary. He needed time to break them. However, Jiang Chen felt that this matter could be done even faster. I know you can see us. I'm here today to honor the will of the black market. I'm here to inquire about the Dark Blood era, Jiang Chen said calmly, looking ahead. He knew that the Flowing Cloud sect's people had sensed them when they arrived. Right now, the Flowing Cloud sect's people were probably watching them from the other side of the formations and restrictions. Go back. The Dark Blood era is too complicated and involves too many things. My Flowing Cloud sect doesn't want to interfere, nor do we want to get involved. A few breaths later, a voice sounded out. It carried a trace of majesty and helplessness. This made Jiang Chen very confused. He only asked them to reveal some information about the Dark Blood era. Why wouldn't they say anything? Could one piece of information cause the Flowing Cloud sect to be destroyed? The formations and restrictions here can't stop me, Jiang Chen said softly. Once I break the formations and restrictions, this matter won't be something that can be explained with words. Obviously, Jiang Chen was threatening them. However, this threat seemed somewhat powerless in the eyes of the Flowing Cloud sect. The Flowing Cloud sect was the most powerful sect in the Golden River world. There were definitely transcendents in the sect. On Jiang Chen's side, the one with the highest cultivation base was only the Sword Dao flower. How could such a cultivation base catch the attention of the Flowing Cloud sect? Even if Jiang Chen managed to break the array and restriction here today, the Flowing Cloud sect would not be afraid of Jiang Chen and the others. Of course, Jiang Chen knew what was going on, but he had the support of the black market. How could he be afraid of the Sky Cloud Martial School? Moreover, Jiang Chen was sure that since this was his first mission, the black market would definitely be watching him in secret. What's more, the big shots of the black market might be nearby. Since you don't want to talk, then don't blame me. Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes, An array runes appeared on his body. His hands danced in front of him. An array runes fell one after another. He had already begun to crack the formations and restrictions. For a moment, there was no sound. The sky cloud sex people did not say anything. Jin Daohua and the others stood beside Jiang Chun, not moving at all. Only Jiu Tian, who had just woken up not long ago, looked around in confusion. She had just come out from the greedy ghost, and her consciousness was very blurry. Although she had woken up, she had not said a word. Jiang Chun was also worried. Could it be that Jiu Tian had been injured in the greedy ghost? However, Jiang Chun had been busy these days and did not have time to take care of Jiu Tian. Just as Jiang Chun was cracking the array and restriction, Jin Daohua saw a ray of light in Jiu Tian's eyes. There was a trace of fear in her eyes. She is very confused now, like a blank piece of paper. Her senses are very pure and sharp. Jin Daohua said in a low voice, "Are we in danger?" "Impossible. The Sky Cloud sex people have not come out. Who would attack us here?" Yao Dade shook his head. However, after a few breaths, Jiang Chun suddenly stopped. He grabbed Jiu Tian and retreated at the same time. At the same time, Jin Daohua and Yao Dade paled as well. Only now did they realize that they had been targeted by something terrifying. They seemed to have become the prey. "Sky Cloud sect, you really dare to attack us?" Jiang Chen's face was gloomy. "Are you going to turn against the black market?" "We have never attacked you." Within the Sky Cloud sect, a helpless voice said with a bitter smile, "The array and restriction of the Sky Cloud sect are not used to stop you, but to stop them." "Them? Who?" Jiang Chen was confused. However, before the Sky Cloud sex people could speak, a black light descended from the sky and went straight for Jiang Chen's head. Jiang Chun reacted quickly. However, when he wanted to move his body, he was shocked to find that he was imprisoned. No, it wasn't that he had been imprisoned, but that he had been intimidated by a terrifying pressure. The fear that came from his soul filled Jiang Chen's entire body and even his soul. He was extremely shocked. He had never felt this way, even when facing an extraordinaire. "How dare you?" Just as the black light was about to hit Jiang Chun, the third leader of the black market appeared. He snarled and smashed the black radiance with his palm. Then he stood in front of Jiang Chun and his companions to protect them. "I knew you would be here." Jiang Chun let out a sigh of relief. At that moment, he could clearly feel that death was right in front of him. "Ignorant creature, you still want to change the direction of fate. When darkness descends, blood will spread across every world. Everything will be reborn and purified in the blood and darkness. The entire world will become pure." At that moment, a leisurely but arrogant voice sounded. Then, a black eye appeared on the boundless snow mountain. There was no emotion in the eye. It was like a high and mighty dragon looking down on everything in the world. Even the third leader of the black market was like a speck of dust in its eyes. So the rumor is true. The origin of the Dark Blood Age is in the Flowing Cloud sect. The third leader of the black market said coldly, "It seems that the Flowing Cloud sect is not simple. We have never done anything wrong to the boundless world. It's just that we were forced to do this. We are also victims." In the Flowing Cloud sect, the voice from before sounded again and advised, "You should leave quickly. He is coming out, playing tricks." The third leader of the black market narrowed his eyes. He was surrounded by black fog and looked fearless. Whoosh! However, just as he finished speaking, the third leader of the black market waved his hand and used the heaven and earth sleeve to suck Jiang Chun and the others into it. Then, he tore the void and fled into the distance without looking back. "Are you scared?" Jiang Chun was stunned. It was the first time he had seen the third leader of the black market run away. "Do you know what that is?" The third leader of the black market said in a low voice, "That is the eye of a depraved creature. It is the sign of the Dark Blood Age." Chapter 1278. The third overlord of the black market panicked. He led Jiang Chun and the rest away quickly, not daring to look back. Jiang Chun was also shocked. He did not know what the Dark Blood Age was, but if the third overlord of the black market was so panicked, there must be a big problem. It's coming! Suddenly, Kendo Hua exclaimed. His whole body tensed up as he pointed at the void behind him. Looking over, that I was actually chasing after them at an extremely fast speed, and it carried with it a nauseating, bloody aura. The third overlord of the black market panicked. His expression was extremely serious as he stopped, then raised his territory to protect the group. We can't run away. Wait for help. The third overlord of the black market's face was gloomy. He knew very well what the eye meant. If the eye was determined to kill them, there was no way they could escape. Mere ants, how dare you pry into the highest law in the world? At this moment, the eye was above the group, standing in the endless void. It was still as arrogant as ever, looking down at the group without a trace of emotion in its eyes. It was as if in its eyes, everyone was nothing but ants and dust, not worth mentioning. Who do you think you are? You're nothing but contaminated trash. There's no place for you in this world. The third overlord of the black market seemed to know something. Although his eyes were full of fear, his words were strong and carried a hint of disdain. In this world, we are the purest living beings, and you are just defective goods. The Dark Blood Age is coming. This time, the entire great thousand world will be swept in for a great purge. No one will be able to stop it, and no one will be able to stop this great purge. The eye seemed to be a little agitated. Rays of black light fell from its pupil, bombarding the third overlord of the black market's territory. Arrogant. The third overlord of the black market's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with anxiety. He was bitterly holding on, waiting for reinforcements to arrive. By the way, you sent me to the Flowing Cloud sect to get information. In fact, you already knew the secrets of the Flowing Cloud sect, didn't you? Jiang Chen frowned and said in a deep voice, You used me as bait to lure the eye out. That's right. The third tycoon of the black market nodded and did not deny it. He glanced at Jiang Chen and smiled bitterly. You're the only one who can interest this eye. After all, you were the one who quelled the Dark Blood era. Jiang Chen was not surprised by this. After all, Jiang Chen knew that he was indeed very powerful in his previous life and had done many shocking things. Now, even if someone told him that he was once an invincible being, he would believe it. However, what made Jiang Chen very unhappy was that he had thought that the black market would protect him. Who would have thought that they would use his life as bait? If I really want to leave, the black market won't be able to stop me, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. There won't be a next time, the third overlord of the black market said. We really couldn't find a suitable person this time. Moreover, the Dark Blood era is about to descend. We are gathering information for the sake of the entire great thousand world. If you don't show up, this eye won't appear. Hearing this, Jiang Chen shrugged indifferently. He then pointed at the eye above his head and asked, What is this thing? A soul. The third overlord of the black market said. He's looking for a host, and this host is in the Flowing Clouds sect. The reason why the Flowing Clouds sect set up formations and restrictions is to prevent him from getting that host. Speaking of this, the third overlord of the black market looked strange and asked, When I asked you to come to the Flowing Clouds sect, I told you that you have a friend in the Flowing Clouds sect. Yes, I remember. Jiang Chen nodded. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Chen's face turned pale. He knew that the third overlord of the black market would not say this for no reason. Combined with what he said earlier, Jiang Chen said in a low voice, His host is a friend of mine? That's right, the third overlord of the black market said softly. So this time, although I asked you to be the bait, I also wanted to give you a chance to save your friend. But now, how can I save him? Jiang Chen smiled bitterly and sighed heavily. If the third overlord of the black market was no match for this eye, then how could Jiang Chen save his friend in the Flowing Cloud sect? Don't worry, he doesn't have a host now, and he doesn't have a physical body. His strength is not at its peak. It's difficult for me to deal with him alone, but before the third overlord of the black market could finish speaking, he heard two ear-piercing sounds coming from afar. Looking over, he saw a man and a woman walking side by side. Their auras were extremely terrifying, far surpassing that of ordinary extraordinaires. Moreover, there was a special aura circulating around their bodies. It was ethereal, as if they were untainted by dust. "This is divine qi?" Jiandao Hua exclaimed. He knew some things, and he had heard the owner of Dakian Graveyard mention it. When an extraordinaire cultivated to a certain level, the great path and precepts in his body would transform and sublimate. And when all of this began to transform and sublimate, their aura would change. This changed aura was the so-called divine qi. This is not something that those who are half a step away from becoming immortals can compare with. This is real divine qi. Yao Date exclaimed. This is a half-immortal, right? Third brother, I told you to cultivate properly, but you were so lazy. Now you can't even deal with an ancient spirit. What a shame. After a few breaths, the man and the woman arrived in front of the third overlord of the black market. The woman was shrouded in mist, but her voice was very pleasant. She was teasing the third overlord of the black market. "Big sister, hurry up. I can't hold on any longer." The third overlord of the black market pointed at the eye above his head with a dark face and said, "This ancient spirit is not ordinary. What's so special about it?" The woman chuckled and then pushed out her white jade-like palm. Like a white jade carved stone pillar, it directly shook the eye. Puff! With a muffled sound, the eye immediately exploded, but it healed in an instant. "All of you are ants," the eye roared, and its voice became very ear-piercing. There was even a black mist that burst forth. However, he did not attack. Instead, he turned into a black light and flew toward the Flowing Clouds sect. "Stop him. His host is in the Flowing Clouds sect," the third overlord of the black market hurriedly shouted. At the same time, he pulled Jiang Chun and the others toward the Flowing Clouds sect. "Want to run? Do you think you can escape?" At this moment, the man whispered. His hands formed seals, and obscure auras appeared on his body. After a few breaths, he shouted, "Coffin-covered Tao Heaven!" You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.